Chapter 565. Following Grandmaster Xian Ming's order, the entire audience cheered. Those who weren't chosen looked at those who were. Their eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. To be able to appraise such an elixir, that was a great opportunity. The value of that elixir was considerable. How could it be so easily eaten on a normal day? In an instant, the mood of the audience was filled with excitement. The faces of those spectators who were chosen were filled with smiles. This was a 6-mark spirit pill. Eating one would bring indescribable benefits to one's body. Furthermore, this was a spirit pill refined by Pill King Mu Bai. It was priceless. Grandmaster Xian Ming swept his gaze across the audience and nodded his head. Then, his gaze landed on the complete spirit pill in front of him. That spirit pill was perfectly round and emitted an azure radiance. The fragrance of the pill constantly spread out, stirring his nose. On the surface of the elixir, there were 6 golden lines that shone densely, wrapping around the elixir. In the distance, Mu Bai quietly stood there. His eyes were filled with confidence, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. His green robes made him look extremely scholarly. Grandmaster Xian Ming stretched out his hand and picked up the elixir. A warm feeling spread through his fingers and entered his body. There was a faint electric shock, causing Grandmaster Xian Ming's heart to skip a beat. It seemed pretty good. After placing the elixir in his mouth, a wave of spiritual energy instantly rushed into the sky. Grandmaster Xian Ming and the other grandmasters around him widened their eyes. It was as if spiritual energy was being released from their mouths and noses. In the next instant, the few grandmasters closed their eyes and enjoyed the nourishment of the elixir's spiritual energy. The spectators were in a similar state. After they consumed the medicinal powder, the energy in their bodies boiled for a short period of time, causing their minds to surge violently. In an instant, the entire scene was silent. The audience looked at the postures of the judges, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The atmosphere instantly became a little tense. After being silent for a long time, someone slowly opened his eyes and let out a long breath. In the next instant, a commotion broke out. The audience members were full of praises as they looked at Mu Bai in surprise. As expected of Pill King Mu Bai, this 6-mark spirit pill was indeed not ordinary. The judges were extremely excited, and they couldn't wait for Mu Bai to become the champion. They really couldn't imagine what kind of 6-mark spirit pill could surpass Mu Bai's. In the eyes of the audience, both Bufong and Jiangling had lost. Their dishes and elixirs didn't even need to be appraised. The 5 alchemy grandmasters slowly opened their eyes. Silence. Keep your opinions to yourselves. Next, we will begin to evaluate Jiangling's pill. 6-mark spiritual pill, 10,000 elephant pill. The knowledge of an alchemy grandmaster was naturally not something that the audience could compare to. After eating Mu Bai's elixir, they could not help but furrow their brows. They were not that optimistic. Mu Bai himself was also stunned. He did not expect the alchemy grandmasters to have such expressions. Could it be that what he had refined was not good enough? The noisy audience quietened down again, but the excitement on their faces did not dissipate. He was also looking forward to Jiangling's pills. After all, when this pill came out of the furnace, the phenomenon wasn't any weaker than young Master Mu Bai's phenomenon. Therefore, the Wanxiang pill must be extraordinary. The audience was the first to consume the medicinal powder. As soon as the medicinal powder entered their mouths, the spectators were all stunned. Their bodies stiffened and the disbelief in their eyes became more and more intense. What a dense spiritual energy, what a terrifying medicinal effect. The taste of young Master Mu Bai's spirit pill in my mouth was actually diluted in an instant. What a terrifying spirit pill. It's simply the peak of a 6-mark spirit pill. Do you guys feel the spiritual energy boiling in your body? Compared to young Master Mu Bai's elixir, this medicinal effect is even more terrifying. The spectators all looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. Grandmaster Xian Ming and the others also consumed the elixir. Their brows instantly twitched, and true energy seemed to be emitting from the pores on their bodies. They exclaimed in their hearts, and opened their eyes to look at Jiangling, who was in the distance. Jiangling proudly and elegantly nodded her head at the few grandmasters. That confidence caused the expressions of the 5 alchemy grandmasters to change. The noisy audience gradually quietened down. They seemed to have realized that something was wrong with the situation. That was because the spectators all had strange expressions on their faces, causing them to involuntarily raise their guard. The ending seemed to be different from what they had imagined in their hearts. What's going on? Could it be that young Master Mu Bai is going to lose? It can't be. He used the Palace Master's 9-star furnace to refine an elixir. How could he lose? Hiss, hiss, hiss. Is young Master Mu Bai going to lose again? I thought that he would be able to take revenge. The spectators all started to whisper amongst themselves. Mu Bai's complexion instantly turned pale. Bu Fong looked at him in confusion. As if sensing Bu Fong's gaze, Mu Bai's face turned ugly. His face was devoid of blood. I might lose, Mu Bai dryly said to Bu Fong. Bu Fong was stunned. Was he going to lose? He turned his head to look at the judges' seats and saw that the spectators all had hesitant expressions on their faces. The 5 alchemy grandmasters were also whispering to each other, constantly muttering. In the end, they seemed to have reached a consensus, and all of them sat up straight. Mu Bai and Jiangling's elixir has already been evaluated. Now, everyone can start voting. There are 2 arrays on each of your seats. On the left is Mu Bai, and on the right is Jiangling. Choose the winner that you all think will be. Grandmaster Xianming said. As soon as his voice fell, the atmosphere in the central square instantly became tense. Not only the spectators in the heavenly mist city's central plaza, even the Pill Palace's spectators who were watching through the projection array were so excited that they clenched their fists. Who would win in the end? Would it be Mu Bai or Jiangling? Between the 2 of them, no matter who won, the champion had already appeared. How could they not be nervous? The 500 judges looked at each other. In the end, they all raised their palms and sent their true energy into the array of their choice. But a strange fluctuation instantly spread out and filled the entire plaza. In the next instant, Mu Bai and Jiangling's bodies instantly emitted a brilliant light. A golden pillar of light began to appear and continuously rose up. The height of the pillar of light represented the number of people who supported them. Mu Bai felt his entire body warm up. Because he was enveloped by the light, he was unable to see how high his pillar of light was. His heart was also a little nervous. Jiangling was very confident. A smile hung on the corner of her mouth as she combed her white hair. Her gaze was calm. Bu Fong took 2 steps back, looking at the pillar of light on the 2 of them. His brows involuntarily twitched. Buzz, the fluctuation disappeared, and the pillar of light stopped rising. The outcome had already appeared. Everyone was silent, unable to make a sound. Mu Bai had lost. Jiangling's pillar of light was at least a person's height higher than Mu Bai's pillar of light. Mu Bai's eyes also shrank, and his entire body began to tremble. He did not dare to believe that he had actually lost. He had lost again. He had lost again to White Demon Jiangling. Another complete defeat. Why was it like this? He finally could not control his own emotions. After his body staggered for a while, he sat on the ground. It was as if all the energy in his body had been sucked out. Haha. Although you have grown a lot, no one can stop my footsteps. This champion position belongs to me. Jiangling, the white-haired Jiangling laughed loudly within the pillar of light. Her face was filled with excitement. After lying low for 3 years, continuously cultivating and practicing alchemy, this time, she could finally successfully obtain the champion position. The Pill Palace's Star Tower, Shi Jiangling was coming. The audience's gazes were extremely complicated. No one would have thought that the popular champion, Mu Bai, would actually lose. It was simply a super dark horse. Even young Master Mu Bai could not win against Jiangling. Didn't that mean that the champion position was already this woman's? Everyone let out a sigh. They felt a little regretful in their hearts. I've said before that I will let you all experience the feeling of being crushed. How is it? Are you very happy? Jiangling's face hung an arrogant smile as her gaze landed on Mu Bai. As for Bufong, she did not even look at him. A chef was already destined to fail. She was too lazy to pay attention to him. Don't be discouraged. Only with failure can there be improvement. The last time you lost to me, didn't you improve so much this time? Go back and train for a few more years. When the time comes, you can continue to challenge me. Although you will never be able to win against me. Ha 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 ha. Arrogant. Everyone looked at Jiangling, who was standing on the stage and laughing nonstop. They all felt a wave of anger. However, looking at Mu Bai, who was sitting on the ground with his head hanging down, they felt a wave of speechlessness. No matter what, Mu Bai had indeed lost. This moment was the revelry of the victors. Bufong furrowed his brows as he looked at Jiangling, who was laughing nonstop and doing her best to display the attitude of a winner. The corner of his mouth twitched as he felt a little unhappy. Hey, you haven't won against me yet. What are you so excited about? Bufong's voice was very calm. However, in the quiet central square, it was like a bomb had landed. Everyone suddenly raised their heads and looked at Bufong. Even Mu Bai, who had his head lowered, slowly raised his head to look at Bufong. This chef still hasn't given up? His dish had already been completely crushed in terms of momentum. Did he still want to continue competing? Wasn't that just asking to be humiliated? There was no meaning to it at all. Jiangling was stunned. The smile on her face slowly disappeared as she coldly looked at Bufong. Your dish was completely crushed. Is there still a need to compete? Jiangling looked at the expressionless Bufong and said with disdain. She was really disdainful. As an alchemist, there was a kind of arrogance in her bones. Although Bufong had repeatedly performed miracles and entered the finals of the Magical Hand Conference, she still looked down on Bufong. It was all because Bufong was a chef. Alchemists were a noble profession. Being a chef, that was such a vulgar profession. How could it be compared to being an alchemist? Bufong's dish, no matter if it was the fragrance or the spiritual energy, it was completely crushed. What right did he have to declare war against her? How can you tell that I am being crushed? Who gave you such confidence? Bufong looked at the arrogant Jiangling with a strange expression. Could it be that just because the fragrance and spiritual energy of his dish could not be compared to the elixir? If he used the stinky tofu to compete, wouldn't Jiangling be arrogant? After all, the stinky tofu was so smelly that it was completely crushed by the elixir. You're just a little chef and you still want to struggle? Obediently admit defeat. Don't be hit by the cruel reality. It is already not bad for a chef to enter the finals. You should be satisfied and not be too greedy. Jiangling said with a faint smile. Oh, you are very confident. I hope that you can be this confident later, Bufong said. He felt that he had to say something ruthless. From afar, Grandmaster Xianming looked deeply at Bufong and took a deep breath. In the end, he announced with a strange expression on his face. The last dish, contestant Bufong's dish. Air. Buddha jumps over the wall soup with chili strips. Chapter 566. Buddha jumps over the wall soup with chili strips? What the hell was that? When everyone heard Grandmaster Xianming's words, they froze on the spot. A look of confusion appeared on their faces. Many people knew about the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. It was the signature dish of Onarbu's restaurant, and its price was much higher than ordinary elixirs. However, what was that chili strip? It was even paired with the Buddha jumps over the wall soup? Why did it sound so awesome? Below the stage, Nangong Wuk and the rest widened their eyes in shock. Chili strip. What was that? Onarbu's new dish? Onarbu was actually researching a new dish in the middle of the competition. When Grandmaster Xianming's words landed, the entire place was silent for a long time. The atmosphere was a little weird as everyone looked at the stage with a strange expression. The 500 judges also furrowed their brows as they looked at the dish in front of them. A bowl of Buddha jumps over the wall soup and a chili strip. The main point was, this dish was actually going to be shared among 5 people. Some people in the audience sneered and waved their hands, indicating that they would not eat it. There's only one serving and you want to share it? Are you here to make a joke? Some people in the audience looked at Bufong and asked. The others nodded their heads in agreement. However, Bufong did not care about them. He only swept a glance at them and was too lazy to speak. Bu Fong did not open his mouth, but Grandmaster Xianming did. As the judges, you have to eat it. If not, how are you going to give your marks? I invited you here for the sake of fairness. Could it be that you want to destroy the fairness of the competition? Since Grandmaster Xianming had already spoken, the audience naturally would not refute him. They all remained silent. Jiang Ling sneered. This scene made her want to laugh more and more. What dark horse, chef? He was simply a joke. A bowl of soup and a chili strip. This is your dish for the finals? This is the dish you plan to use to defeat me? Jiang Ling's eyes flashed and landed on Bu Fong's body. Do you think my elixir was refined by trash like yours? You're going to use this kind of dish that doesn't have any special characteristics? At first, I was a little wary of you. But now, it seems like you don't live up to your reputation. Jiang Ling's words were very cold. The more she spoke, the more silent the surrounding audience became. Honorable had really crossed the line this time. After all, this was the finals. Even if he couldn't bring out the stunning dishes from the semifinals and other competitions, he should at least bring out some refreshing dishes, right? How was he supposed to win with a bowl of soup and a spicy strip? Although the soup was Buddha jumps over the wall soup, the main point was still the ingredients. The fragrant ingredients were the essence of Buddha jumps over the wall. Those who had eaten the Buddha jumps over the wall soup knew that the soup was important, but the ingredients were more important. Those spirit beast meat, those spirit herbs, you just took out the soup and paired it with a spicy strip that I don't know how it tastes. Wasn't he just looking to lose? In the face of the distrust in the eyes of the audience, Bu Fong was still so indifferent. Crazy chili strips was a dish rewarded by the system. It was a functional dish like Rampage Ramen, a dish that could be used to set up a gourmet array. Compared to Rampage Ramen, it had a better texture and was more convenient to use. Although Bu Fong came to the competition with the mentality of trying it out, the fact that he took out the chili strips showed that he had a lot of confidence in them. The power of the chili strips wasn't something an ordinary person could imagine. Perhaps before eating it, one would ignore it. However, after eating it once, the unique texture and taste would linger in one's mind, making it unforgettable. The next time they smelled the sweet and spicy taste of the chili strips, their mouths would involuntarily salivate and their hearts would yearn for it. This was just an ordinary chili strip. Bu Fong didn't know how terrifying the power of the crazy chili strips was, but he was sure that the system's product was definitely of the highest quality. As such, Bu Fong had a sympathetic attitude towards the disdainful audience. These people didn't even know what they were about to face. All right, let's not talk too much. Let the appraisal begin. Grandmaster Xianming sucked in a deep breath and stopped the crowd's discussion. He also stopped Jiang Ling from mocking Bu Fong. Jiang Ling was very confident. She felt that the championship was already in her bag. A chef wasn't a threat at all. Furthermore, the dishes in the competition had no chance of winning against her elixir. Originally, she wanted the chef to admit defeat. Since he wanted to seek humiliation, she would let him seek for it. The 5 grandmasters looked at each other. There wasn't the disdain in their eyes. Instead, there was a solemn expression. They were very clear of how terrifying Bu Fong's culinary skills were. Since it was the finals, no matter how big his heart was, he wouldn't use some trash dishes to mess around. Grandmaster Gu He, please. Grandmaster Xianming looked at the smiling Gu He and said with a smile. Gu He's eyebrows twitched and he nodded his head. He used his chopsticks to pick up the chili strip. However, before he could pick it up, he was interrupted by Bu Fong. This chili strip, please eat it with your hands, Bu Fong said in a serious tone. Everyone was stunned. Another dish that had to be eaten with his hands? All right, let's eat it with my hands. Grandmaster Gu He looked deeply at Bu Fong. With a smacking sound, he threw away his chopsticks and used 2 of his fingers to pick up the chili strip. A unique sweet and spicy taste assaulted his nostrils. The chili strip was scarlet red, and it was covered with red chili juice. It was incomparably bright. Could this thing really be eaten? Grandmaster Gu He suddenly felt a little apprehensive. He felt that this thing was poisonous. It didn't seem like something delicious at all. Don't worry, eat it, Bu Fong said. Grandmaster Gu He stroked his beard. In the end, He opened his mouth and bit down on the chili strip. This chili strip was filled with chewiness. In an instant, a sweet and spicy taste burst forth in Grandmaster Guhi's mouth. There was a hint of sweetness in the spiciness and a hint of saltiness in the sweetness. It was unique and strange. After chewing for a while, Grandmaster Guhi's eyes slowly widened. He couldn't stop his mouth from chewing. With a gulp, he swallowed the chili strip into his stomach. In an instant, it was as if a ball of fire had entered his stomach. His entire stomach became warm as though it was on fire. This Grandmaster Guhi was shocked. He felt as though his meridians were burning at this moment. The speed at which his true energy circulated became extremely fast. Beep, 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 white gas spurted out from his nostrils. Grandmaster Guhi's face was flushed red. Hiss, hiss. It's a little spicy. Grandmaster Guhi nodded his head at the people around him. Then he took another bite of the chili strip and started to chew it. The eyes of the remaining alchemy grandmasters lit up. That old man Guhi's expression. It was so familiar. The few of them revealed a meaningful smile. In the next instant, they all took a bite of the chili strip. Rumble. The few grandmasters widened their eyes at the same time. Their faces turned red and white gas spurted out from their nostrils. Slurp, slurp. On the stage, the 5 grandmasters ate until their lips turned red. They were covered in oil and their hands were covered in grease. Their faces were filled with excitement and white gas spurted out from their nostrils. They simply couldn't stop eating. As they ate, the aura on their bodies increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. True energy chains swayed behind each of them. Swish. However, what caused everyone to be horrified was that the genuine chi chains behind every alchemy master seemed to have undergone a very strange phenomenon. For example, Grandmaster Xianming. The true energy chains behind him actually reached 6? What the heck? Wasn't a divine physique echelon supposed to break through 5 supreme being shackles? Where did 6 come from? Was this heaven-defying? Awesome. Grandmaster Guhi finished the chili strip in his hand. He had a reluctant expression on his face as he licked the finger that was holding the chili strip. Only after licking the chili strip clean did he reluctantly let go of it. His gaze landed on the thick soup containing the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. Grandmaster Guhi had tasted the Buddha jumps over the wall soup before, so he didn't have much expectations for it. However, he still picked it up and drank a mouthful. After one mouthful, his body stiffened. In the next instant, he took another mouthful and another mouthful. In the last mouthful, he raised the bowl up high and shook it fiercely. He couldn't let go of even the last drop. Looking at the way the grandmasters ate, the audience was stunned. This seemed to be different from what they had imagined. This dish, wasn't it trash? The 500 judges were also stunned. In the next instant, they also started to taste the dish. Because there were 5 portions of the dish, the first person ate it and passed it to the second person. The 5 of them gathered at the same spot. Soon, the judges started to eat. Oh, this is the so-called chili strip? The texture is really unique. There's even a sweet taste. It's so sweet that it reaches my heart. Slurp, slurp. Not bad, not bad. As expected of the dark horse chef. This chili strip is really delicious. It's so spicy that my nose is sweating. Let me take another mouthful. Wait a moment. The judges said as they ate. Their faces were flushed and their nostrils flared. The true energy shackles behind them swayed. They felt as though their strength had increased by a lot at this moment. This chili strip could actually increase one's cultivation. It was really unbelievable. One of the judges broke through on the spot. His body was filled with true energy, and 2 true energy shackles swayed behind him. His nostrils were spewing hot air, and his eyes were wide open. F***CK. Another mouthful. Don't fight with me. Fight your sister. It's my turn, okay? Can't you be more reasonable? Let me eat first. I promise I'll only take one mouthful. The judges went crazy. The 5 of them fought over a chili strip. That scene was a mess. The judges didn't expect that there would be a fight over the chili strip. Wasn't it just a chili strip? All of a sudden, true energy surged on the stage. One of the audience members, whose chili strip was snatched away, was furious. He directly released his cultivation and attacked that person. The audience and the spectator stands were all dumbfounded. Why did they start fighting? In the distance, the confidence on Jiangling's face slowly disappeared. Gradually, it was replaced with seriousness. Mubai sat on the ground and looked at the messy scene. His eyes slowly narrowed. Dong, 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 dong. All of a sudden, the audience members who had finished drinking the Buddha jumps over the wall soup slammed their blue and white porcelain bowls on the table. Everyone felt incomparably comfortable. In the next instant, everyone looked at Bu Fong with blazing eyes. What 10,000 elephant pill? What star cloud pill? In front of the chili strip, they were all trash. The chili strip was invincible. Chapter 567. The scene turned chaotic, and the judges were dumbfounded. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. Didn't that person say that he wouldn't eat this dish anymore? Why was he fighting over it so happily? Also, that woman in the distance, couldn't she be a little more reserved? She was on the stage with so many people watching. Couldn't she maintain her image? The judges felt a headache coming on, and they quickly tried to maintain order. Finally, the scene was stabilized, and the Buddha jumps over the wall soup and chili strips were distributed in an orderly manner. For a moment, the true energy on the stage surged violently, and everyone's aura showed a very considerable increase and enhancement. The corners of Bu Fong's mouth curled upwards, and he revealed a satisfied smile. This was the power of the chili strip. It was a dish that made you want to eat it. Jiangling and Mu Bai, who were in the distance, had faces full of disbelief. This situation was beyond their expectations. Wasn't the fragrance and spiritual energy of Bu Fong's dish completely suppressed by their elixirs? Why was there such a crazy situation? That's right, it was crazy. The scene of so many people fighting over the chili strip could be described as crazy and unbelievable. A group of people was actually fighting over a chili strip in front of so many people. One had to know that they were on the stage, and the projection array was still activated. The scene was being broadcasted to the entire Pill Palace. These people were going to be famous. Owner Boo, give me another chili strip. I beg you. Owner Boo, please cook me another chili strip. I can't take it anymore. Chili strip. I want chili strips. I want delicious chili strips. After eating the chili strip and drinking the Buddha jumps over the wall soup, the eyes of the judges suddenly turned to look at Bu Fong. Their eyes shone brightly like a lamp in the dark night. All of them stared at Bu Fong and said impatiently, "Hiss, hiss, hiss, what was going on?" The audience was dumbfounded. Wasn't it just a chili strip? Was it really that delicious? They couldn't even stop eating? Was that ugly thing really that delicious? Those who hadn't eaten the spicy strip before wouldn't be able to understand the allure of the spicy strip. That kind of heart-wrenching feeling caused the eyes of all the judges to turn red. It seemed that if Bu Fong did not agree to their conditions, they would fight to the death with Bu Fong. The referees were dumbfounded again. They suddenly felt a headache coming on. This dark horse chef, as expected, he was starting to stir up trouble again. It was already the finals. Couldn't he just finish the competition peacefully? With the help of the judges, the audience members calmed down and did not fight with Bu Fong. Do you guys want to eat spicy strips? Sure. After the finals, you can buy it from the Cloud Mist restaurant. Remember, first come, first served. Bu Fong looked at the group of people, and the corners of his mouth curled up. In the next instant, he took out a chili strip from the system's dimensional storage and took a bite. Slurp, slurp, asterisk gulp, asterisk. The group of people stared at Bu Fong. When they saw him bite the chili strip and tell them to buy it, they felt a deep pain in their hearts. Where was this guy's moral integrity? However, when they saw Bu Fong eat the chili strip until his mouth was red and oily, the audience members couldn't help but laugh. What a dilemma! Just when Bu Fong was eating with relish, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. Huh? Bu Fong was stunned. With a chili strip in his mouth, he turned around and saw a cold and elegant face. It was the expressionless Yu. Bu Fong, I want to eat it. Yu's eyes lit up as she looked at the chili strip in Bu Fong's mouth. She stuck out her tongue and licked her red lips. Slurp, slurp. Bufong raised his eyebrows and his mouth moved. He stuffed the chili strip into his mouth and looked at you with vigilance. He was really afraid that this woman would pounce on him and snatch the chili strip from his mouth. And, fortunately, I secretly kept a few strips after I finished cooking it. Bufong muttered in a low voice. He took out a chili strip from the system dimensional storage and handed it to you. Nethery pouted and happily received the spicy strip. She took a big bite, and in the next moment, her black eyes lit up with a dazzling light. In the distance, the audience members looked at this scene with hidden bitterness. There was obviously a chili strip. Why didn't he take it out? This guy really didn't have any moral integrity. Boom! The 5 Grandmasters started to retract their auras. Grandmaster Xianming's hair fluttered in the wind, and the 6th Supreme Being's shackles on his back swayed. In the end, the 6th shackle started to dissipate. The limit of the human body was to break through 5 Supreme Being shackles. The appearance of the 6th shackle did not conform to the laws of heaven and earth. Naturally, it would not exist in this world for long. Grandmaster Xianming's cultivation had not broken through. However, he was much stronger than before. The other Grandmasters were in a similar situation. Some of them did not break through after their cultivation quietened down. However, they also obtained a lot of growth. There were also some who broke through a realm. This was simply unbelievable. The 5 Grandmasters looked at Bufong, whose mouth was bulging and chewing nonstop. They took a deep breath. It seemed like there was no longer any suspense in this competition. They did not think that this ordinary-looking dish, which could not be compared to Jiangling's elixir, would actually have such a terrifying effect and taste. As expected, dishes and elixirs were different. One could not use elixirs to judge dishes. Who knew what kind of terrifying taste and effect a dish that did not have any special characteristics would have? Just like the stinky tofu from before. It was so smelly that it had no friends, but it actually tasted so delicious. Jiangling was stunned on the spot. The confidence on her face gradually disappeared. She felt that the ending had exceeded her expectations. Mubai sat on the ground, and suddenly, he laughed softly. What are you laughing at? Jiangling turned her head and coldly looked at Mubai. Although Mubai's face was pale, his smile was still very gentle. I am laughing at you for being too confident. Bufong has created so many miracles in this competition. You actually underestimated him. Oh no, not only you, we all underestimated him. All of us were wrong. That guy is a monster. We should not judge him based on common sense. Isn't it just a dish? We still don't know who will win. Jiangling clenched her teeth. Her white hair fluttered in the wind, and a trace of seriousness appeared in her eyes. Mubai shook his head and looked at Bufong in the distance. He suddenly felt that the current Bufong was like a dazzling radiance. That appearance seemed familiar. It was just like when he met the Pill Palace's master. Mubai was stunned. Bufong actually gave him the feeling that he was the Pill Palace's master? How could this be possible? The Pill Palace's master was in existence at the Divine Soul Realm. His cultivation was unfathomable, and his alchemy skills were even more divine. How could a chef like Bufong compare to him? Cough, cough. All right, everyone quiet down. Since the last item has been appraised, let us begin the judging. The rules are the same as before. The array on the left is Jiangling's 10,000 elephant pill, while the array on the right is Bufong's Buddha jumps over the wall soup with chili strips. Choose whoever you think should win. Grandmaster Xianming felt the energy in his body and took a deep breath. He looked deeply at Bufong and said. The hearts of the audience trembled. Their gazes landed on the stage and on the young man whose mouth was stuffed. The young man was wearing a red and white vermilion robe. It was like a burning flame, adding to his handsomeness. Now choose. Grandmaster Xianming suddenly said. In an instant, the 500 judges' eyes lit up. They all revolved their true energy and activated the array in front of them. A buzzing sound resounded. Rays of light shot out from their array and gathered at the position where Bufong and Jiangling were. Jiangling's gaze was fixed on Bufong. Or rather, she was staring at the golden light surrounding Bufong's body. In the next instant, Her pupils constricted and her eyes were filled with disbelief. The audience in the spectator stands went into an uproar. They all stood up, widened their eyes, and sucked in a deep breath. The 5 grandmasters were also stunned. Their expressions became strange, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Below the stage, Nangong Wuk's nostrils flared, and he had an incomparably shocked expression on his face. Nangong Wan and Yang Meiji were also dumbfounded. Everyone present was shocked. In other words, other than Bu Fong, who was engulfed by the golden light, who was chewing on his chili strip, and you, who was standing beside Bu Fong, who was happily eating her chili strip, everyone else looked as though they had seen a ghost. Rays of light shot into the sky, and the golden light was dazzling. That dazzling and eye-catching light caused everyone to subconsciously squint their eyes. Jiang Ling's chest heaved up and down. Her eyes widened as she looked at the dazzling golden light pillar that shot into the sky from Bu Fong's body. That light pillar seemed to cover the entire sky. Even Bu Fong's appearance couldn't be seen clearly. Around her body, there was only a faint light. Compared to the light pillar around Bu Fong, that light was like the light of a firefly compared to the bright moon. How is this possible? Bang! Jiang Yu shook her head, and the energy on her body surged. It dispersed the golden light pillar around her body. Her entire face was filled with malevolence and madness. Are you all crazy? How could this chili strip compare to my elixir? My 10,000 elephant pill is a 6-mark spirit pill. How could it not compare to a chili strip? Jiang Ling roared at the 500 judges. She felt a burning pain on her face. It was the feeling of being slapped in the face. Previously, she was still mocking Bu Fong and saying that he would definitely lose. In the end, the light pillar made her want to find a hole to bury herself in. She was roaring, and she was going crazy. The 500 judges furrowed their brows. They were speechless as they looked at this crazy woman. Their choice was based on their own hearts. That chili strip was too tempting. Not only did it taste good, but its effects were also very strong. How could such a dish not win against your 6-mark spirit pill? Although a 6-mark spirit pill was not bad, it was impossible for an expert who had broken through 4 shackles to forcefully advance by a realm. However, the chili strip could do it. So what was wrong with choosing the chili strip? Jiang Ling's white hair scattered. She didn't believe it. She wasn't willing to believe it. Grandmaster Xian Ming and the others furrowed their brows. They felt that Jiang Ling was a little too much. Victory and defeat were normal. Why was there a need to be so crazy? I don't believe it. How can my elixir lose? Thinking about that chef's expressionless face, Jiang Ling felt that he was mocking her. She couldn't stand this kind of mockery. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the light pillar that enveloped Bu Fong. A ray of light shot out at an extremely fast speed. Jiang Ling's eyes narrowed. She raised her hand and grabbed the object that was shooting toward her. Not willing to admit defeat, then try the chili strip. Buzz with a loud bang, the light pillar dispersed. His robe fluttered and feathers fluttered. Bu Fong's figure appeared in the golden light. Chapter 568. If Bu Fong's mouth wasn't bulging as he chewed, when the golden light dissipated, Bu Fong would definitely look very handsome. It was a pity that the image of him chewing on the chili strip ruined the beauty of the entire scene. Jiang Ling caught the chili strip that Bu Fong threw over. Her pupils shrank as a faint sweet and spicy aroma surged over. She looked deeply at Bu Fong, then grabbed the chili strip and stuffed it in her mouth. Honestly speaking, she really didn't believe that a chili strip could actually win against her. How could her 6-mark spirit pill be defeated so easily? However, when the chili strip entered her mouth, Jiang Ling's mind felt as if it was violently bombarded by the morning bell. Her entire mind started to sway. Jiang Ling's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Beads of sweat appeared on her nose. That was because of the spiciness of the chili strip. She didn't understand. How could such a spicy thing taste so good? The first time she ate the chili strip, Jiang Ling felt her entire body tremble. Her pores opened up, and true energy continuously gushed out. Gulp. One mouthful, two mouthfuls. The central square became extremely quiet at this moment. Everyone was quietly looking at Jiangling, who was in the arena, watching the latter silently eat the chili strip. Bufang gently exhaled. He finally swallowed the chili strip in his mouth. He hadn't eaten the chili strip for a long time. This kind of feeling was a little nostalgic. What? Do you admit defeat? Bufang wiped off the oily juice on his mouth and said to Jiangling, who was in the distance, with a smile. Jiangling's body was trembling. She lowered her head and bit by bit. Her head full of white hair drooped down, covering her entire face. Suddenly, Bufang was stunned, because he realized that Jiangling's body had started to tremble violently. Drops of crystal-clear tears flowed down from her covered face and dripped onto the ground. With a plop sound, it broke and left behind a pool of water. Everyone was silent. They knew that Jiangling had admitted her defeat. The few alchemy grandmasters all sighed, feeling pity for Jiangling originally. Jiangling had a high chance of becoming the champion of this year's Magical Hand Conference. If not for the appearance of such a dark horse chef, she would have been standing on the high platform, enjoying the glory. Unfortunately, even though she was number one in alchemy, a chef who didn't walk the path of alchemy appeared in the Magical Hand Conference. And this chef had killed her. Since that's the case, the finals of this year's Magical Hand Conference have come to an end. The rankings have also been decided. Grandmaster Xian Ming said coldly. His voice spread out and instantly permeated the void. A buzzing sound rang out. A resplendent screen appeared in the sky. It was the ranking displayed by the projection formation. First place, Bufang. Second place, Jiangling. Third place, Mubai. Bufang's name was shining with golden light, hanging high above the projection formation, showing off to the extreme. Bufang raised his head and looked at his name. His eyes slightly narrowed, but his heart was rather calm. Mubai's mood seemed to have calmed down a lot. He stood beside Bufang. Jiangling, this woman, was unable to accept her defeat after losing the championship. Hence, she left first, not even wanting to receive a reward. Owner Boo, do you still have a chili gluten? Can I have a taste? I also want to know how magical the chili gluten that defeated Jiangling is, Mubai said with a warm smile. Bufang was stunned. He turned his head and looked at him expressionlessly. No more, Bufang said in a serious tone. Didn't you say that you secretly hid a lot of them? Mubai asked curiously. I've eaten all of them. If you want to have a taste, you can come to my store tomorrow to buy them. Remember, first come, first serve. Bufang's lips curled up. Tomorrow? Mubai furrowed his brows. Owner Boo, don't you know that we're going to enter the Heaven's Secret territory tomorrow? As the top 3 in this year's Magical Hand Conference, we all have the chance to enter the Heaven's Secret territory, Mubai said. Enter the Heaven's Secret territory? Bufang was stunned. Why didn't he know that they were going to enter the Heaven's Secret territory tomorrow? How much business would he lose if he did that? Owner Boo, you actually don't know? Mubai's face was full of surprise. Wasn't the purpose of fighting for the top 3 in the Magical Hand Conference to enter the Heaven's Secret territory? The Heaven's Secret territory was an important place in the Pill Palace. There were many precious medicinal fields in it, and the medicinal fields were filled with precious spiritual herbs. Just like the ginseng spiritual herbs that Jiangling took out earlier, there were many of them in the Heaven's Secret territory. Other than spiritual herbs, there were also all kinds of opportunities and inheritances in the Heaven's Secret territory. There were even inheritances of experts at the peak of the Divine Soul Realm. The secret domain was a small world formed by some unstable spatial factors in the Hidden Dragon continent. There might be many mysterious things in those small worlds, such as the inheritance of experts, rare heavenly treasures, and even fragments of other continents. Any Heaven's Secret territory was a land of opportunity. The strongest force in the Hidden Dragon continent, the Hidden Dragon Royal Court, was rumored to control an extremely precious Heaven's Secret territory and many resources, becoming the strongest force in the continent. Of course, this saying might be a little one-sided, But it was undeniable that the existence of the Heaven's secret territory made many forces stronger. This was a fact. If one wanted to enter the Heaven's secret territory controlled by the hidden dragon royal court, without sufficient strength, one would not even have the qualifications to take a peek. The opening of the Heaven's secret territory has a fixed time. The original rule was that the Heaven's secret territory would only open after a few days. However, for some reason, the Heaven's secret territory suddenly opened earlier this year. Luckily, the top 3 have already been decided, Mubai said. Bufang was a little confused. He didn't have much of an idea about the Heaven's secret territory, but he was very interested in the rewards of the Magical Hand Conference this time. Didn't they say that the rewards of the Magical Hand Conference would be exchanged for crystals? This was what Bufang hoped for. Grandmaster Xianming was in charge of giving out the rewards. He looked at Bufang, whose face was glowing, and his heart was incomparably strange. Other people won the championship for the spirit pills and alchemy manuals other than the quota to enter the Heaven's secret territory. However, Bufang was a chef, so it was useless for him to have the alchemy manual. Thus, he could only exchange the alchemy manual for crystals. He placed a big box of crystals in front of Bufang. Seeing how the latter couldn't wait to pick up the box, Grandmaster Xianming felt that the champion of this Magical Hand Conference was really the weirdest. However, seeing that the kid was about to leave with the box, Grandmaster Xianming was instantly stunned. Bufang, do you know that tomorrow is the opening day of the Heaven's secret territory? Remember to gather at the Pill Tower on time tomorrow. Grandmaster Xianming shouted at Bufang's back as he walked down the stage. However, the only reply he got was a casual wave of Bufang's hand. The Magical Hand Conference had finally ended. That unexpected result instantly spread throughout the entire Pill Palace. Everyone was discussing the result of the competition. White Demon Jiangling took out a 6-mark spirit pill, but she still lost. Moreover, she lost to some chili strip. That chili strip caused the 500 judges to go crazy, and they started fighting over it on the stage. In the end, even Jiangling was conquered by that chili strip. The entire Pill Palace was in an uproar. The champion of the Magical Hand Conference wasn't an alchemist, but a chef. This caused many people to have some objections. However, Bufang won the championship with his own strength. Many people didn't know what to say. Some of the older alchemists bluntly said that Bufang didn't live up to his title as the champion and he had to be disqualified. That was because a chef didn't have the qualifications to become the champion of the Magical Hand Conference. When Hanli heard this news, a flash of light flashed in his eyes. He stood in front of the window of the metallic building with his hands clasped behind his back. Looking down at the scenery below, the corners of his mouth curled upwards. That fellow was finally going to enter the Heaven's secret territory. It was time to make a move. He still couldn't forget about the Shura Tower. Within the Cloud Mist restaurant, Bufang pulled out a chair and sat in the middle of the restaurant. The bronze door was closed, and he didn't open for business. In front of him was a huge box. That was the reward for this year's Magical Hand Conference. Opening the box, Bufang saw that it was filled to the brim with crystals. Looking at them, Bufang was elated. These were all cultivation bases. However, after counting them carefully, there were only 100,000 crystals. This caused Bufang to be slightly disappointed. No matter what, it was the prize for the champion of the Magical Hand Conference. Why was it only worth a few crystals? Bufang was dissatisfied in his heart. However, he couldn't say anything. He could only wave his hand and put all the crystals into the system's dimensional storage. The system would then recycle them. Retracting his consciousness from the system, Bufang leaned on the chair and let out a long breath. He slightly narrowed his eyes and enjoyed the rare tranquility. Within the store, he was quietly walking around barefooted. Xiaopi was lying on Xiao Bai's round head. It didn't want to see Bufang. This little fellow was still holding a grudge. Lord Dog, on the other hand, continued to lie under the path understanding tree and sleep. This lazy dog always had a lazy posture. As for the little 8 treasures chicken, it seemed like it had grown wings because the food it was eating was much better than before. It was excitedly flapping its wings as it ran around the store while clucking. Buzz, temporary mission. Host, please enter the Heaven Secret territory and search for the true dragon fruit. Also, complete the promotion of the Heaven Grade Buddha jumps over the wall soup. Mission reward, 20% true energy conversion reward. Just as Bufong was about to close his eyes and take a nap, the system's solemn voice resounded in his mind. Why was there another mission? Bufong had just decided not to go to the Heaven Secret territory, and now there was a mission to search for the true dragon fruit. This was definitely intentional. Bufong straightened his body and his brows instantly furrowed. To be honest, he really didn't want to go to the Heaven Secret territory. If he had the time, he might as well stay in the Cloud Mist restaurant to do business. Yesterday, he had done a big promotion for the chili strips. Tomorrow's business would definitely be very good. Those were all cultivation bases. Bufong really couldn't bear to give up such a good opportunity to go to the Heaven Secret territory. But he could not do the temporary mission. Right, Bufong stood up with a headache and paced back and forth in the store. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at you, who was wandering around aimlessly, and his eyes lit up. If I make the chili strips first and let you sell them, then wouldn't I be able to go to the Heaven's Secret territory with peace of mind? Bufong's lips instantly curled up. He felt that this idea was feasible. You felt Bufong's fiery gaze and looked at him with some doubt. In the next instant, she saw Bufong pull up the corners of his mouth at her. He turned around and went into the kitchen. Was he going to cook dragon blood rice for her? You pouted. She had food to eat again, so happy. Chapter 569. Bufong entered the kitchen and started cooking in full swing. This time, he didn't cook any other dishes. He only made the crazy chili strips. Moreover, he made a lot of them at once. After all, he had to leave for the Heaven Secret territory, and he didn't know when he would return. Hence, he made more chili strips for you to sell. Although this kind of small store's daily turnover wouldn't be much, it would at least ensure that the store would be open every day. As long as the store was open, it meant that Bufong was cultivating at all times. Within a huge blue and white porcelain pot, it was filled with scarlet chili strips. The red oil slowly flowed, and a sweet and spicy aroma wafted over. The entire store seemed to be covered by the aroma of the chili strips. The aroma of a single chili strip wasn't that strong. However, when a large amount of chili strips were piled up together, the aroma would be extraordinary. Bufong let out a deep breath. Bufong took a step back and used a dry cloth to wipe the water stains on his hands. He looked at his finished product with satisfaction, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. With so many chili strips, it should be enough to last for many days, right? Thus, Bufong carried the blue and white porcelain pot filled with chili strips out of the kitchen. You and Lord Go were already prepared. They sat at the dining table and waited for Bufong's dish. However, when they saw Bufong walking out of the kitchen, the man and the dog's eyes widened in shock. Lord Go's face was filled with confusion. What was that? Where was the promised sweet and sour ribs? You was slightly stunned. In the next moment, she blinked her eyes and was a little excited. She had eaten chili strips before, and the taste was unexpectedly good, causing her to be infatuated with them. She didn't think that Bufong would actually be so considerate and prepare so many chili strips for her. With a thud, Bufong placed the blue and white porcelain pot on the table. He pulled a chair and sat down, expressionlessly looking at you and Lord Go. Bufong, where's Lord Go's sweet and sour ribs? Are you planning to feed this to the Lord Go today? Let me tell you, the Lord Go eats meat. I'm not a vegetarian. The Lord Go's nostrils flared. He was very angry that there was no sweet and sour ribs. You, on the other hand, pouted and narrowed her eyes. Her heart was filled with joy. She stretched out her fair and slender hand, pinched a chili strip, and stuffed it into her mouth. She was very happy to eat the food. There's no sweet and sour ribs today. Only this, said Bufong. What Lord Dog doesn't eat vegetables? Bufong did not believe this lazy dog's nonsense. Back then, when there was no sweet and sour ribs, this lazy dog happily ate egg fried rice. The Lord Go was very angry. He felt that Bufong had changed. He wasn't like this before. He bared his teeth at Bufong for a while, but Bufong didn't pay him any attention. Feeling helpless, the Lord Go gave up. Shaking the fat on his body, he planned to go back to the path understanding tree to sleep. However, before he could leave the table, Bufong grabbed his head. The latter waved a chili strip in front of him. "It's useless. The Lord Go is definitely not a vegetarian," said the Lord Go. Munch, however, as soon as he finished speaking, Bufong squinted his eyes and stuffed the chili strip into his mouth. The Lord Go's eyes widened, and the fat on his body shook like waves. However, after shaking for a while, the Lord Go's eyes lit up, and he started to chew. "The taste is unexpectedly not bad," the Lord Go said seriously. "Lass, give the Lord Go another strip." You, who had 3 chili strips in her mouth, nodded. She picked up the chili strip with 2 fingers and handed it to the Lord Go. The man and the dog ate happily again. "Okay, that's enough." After eating for a while, Bufong stopped you and the Lord Go. He said, your boss, have to go to the secret realm tomorrow. I have a reason to go. As the store's waiter, you have the obligation to look after the store and keep it open for business." You, who had 4 chili strips in her mouth, tilted her head and listened to Bufong's words in confusion. "These leftover spicy strips will be sold tomorrow. Remember to open for business tomorrow and only sell spicy strips. Don't sell any other dishes, got it?" Bufong instructed. You ate until her mouth was full of oil. With a roll of her tongue, the fragrant oil around her lips was sucked into her mouth. Her eyes shone brightly as she nodded her head solemnly. The Lord Go continued to chew, ignoring Bufong. Bufong was very satisfied. Looking at Yu's serious expression, he felt that everything was stable. He could go to the heaven's secret realm with peace of mind. Swish, with a wave of his hand, the chili strips in the porcelain bowl were kept. Bufong nodded at the human and the dog, then turned around and walked into the room. You stuffed another 3 chili strips in her mouth, and the Lord Go also stuffed 3 chili strips in his mouth. The human and the dog watched as Bufong turned around and disappeared. The next morning, the warm sunlight shone on Bufong's body, making him feel warm all over. He opened his eyes. It was another beautiful day. After washing up, Bufong walked down the stairs. After practicing his knife and carving skills in the kitchen, he started to prepare dishes. The big fire rolled, and the fragrance filled the air. Hot air surged. In a short while, the fragrance of the kitchen filled the air, and light filled the air. Carrying the dragon blood rice and sweet and sour ribs out of the kitchen, he placed the 2 dishes in front of you and the Lord Go. Then, Bufong started to instruct them about today's matters. After eating and drinking their fill, Bufong took out the porcelain bowl and placed it in front of you. "Come, the store will be under your management for the next few days. Remember to do some business," Bufong said. You nodded her head, holding the porcelain bowl with a solemn expression. It had to be said that when this woman was solemn, she was indeed beautiful beyond compare. Xiaobai walked out of the kitchen with its chubby body and followed behind Bufong. Its purple eyes flickered unceasingly. Without a doubt, Xiaobai would be protecting it during this trip to the secret realm. After all, you had to manage the restaurant, and the Lord Go, that lazy dog, was too lazy to even move. Only Xiaobai and Xiao Opi would follow him. Of course, if he wanted to take the 8 treasures chicken away, that fellow wouldn't be able to reject him. However, there was no meaning in Bufong bringing 80 into the secret realm. With a creaking sound, the bronze door opened. The dazzling sunlight shone in, causing Bufong to raise his hand to cover his eyes. He looked at you, who was standing quietly in the distance, and walked toward the Pill Pagoda in satisfaction. Today's gathering point was the Heavenly Mist City's Pill Pagoda. This was the first time Bufong stepped into the Pill Pagoda. He had been in the Heavenly Mist City for so long, but this was the first time he had the opportunity to enter. The Pill Pagoda was the symbolic building of the Pill City. There were many alchemists inside, and every single one of them was obediently brought into the Pill Pagoda to cultivate, continuously tempering their alchemy techniques. The Pill Pagoda was the holy land in every alchemist's heart. It was their sacred and inviolable land. When Bufong arrived in front of the Pill Pagoda, the chief judge, who was guarding the Pill Pagoda, brought him in. With a loud rumble, the heavy bronze door of the Pill Pagoda closed with a loud bang. A group of people came to a secret room. The secret room was deep, and the air was filled with a rich fragrance. There were many people standing inside. When Grandmaster Xianming saw Bufong, he nodded his head. Mu Bai's face was filled with warmth as he smiled at Bufong and greeted him. As for Jiang Ling, her face was cold. She had yet to walk out from her defeat, and when she saw Bufong, she felt a little unnatural. Very good. Since everyone is here, this old man will start activating the array that leads to the Heaven's Secret Territory, Grandmaster Xianming said solemnly. The Heaven's Secret Territory is very big, and there are many living beings inside. Among them, there are many genius alchemists from the Pill Palace training inside. There are also genius disciples from the other powers in the Hidden Dragon Continent training inside. Because there are countless opportunities inside, I hope that everyone will be able to find their own opportunities inside. When everyone enters, there will be someone to guide them. If you want to leave the Heaven's Secret Territory, there will also be someone to guide you. Grandmaster Xianming said seriously. Bufong and the others nodded their heads. In the next instant, the energy in Grandmaster Xianming's body surged. Smoke and dust rolled in the secret room, and it was as though there was a hurricane spreading out from Grandmaster Xianming's body. His alchemist robe seemed to be blown by a blower as it swelled up and trembled. A buzzing sound rang out. The entire secret chamber lit up. At the center of the secret chamber, there was a complicated and mysterious array that flickered with light. That array was extremely complicated. Within the large circle, there were many small circles, and within the circles, there were also many patterns drawn. If an ordinary person looked at it, they would feel dizzy. This Heaven's Secret Territory was much bigger than the one that was opened in the Nangong family's territory. The array was extremely mysterious. Bufong and the others walked to the center of the array. In an instant, a dazzling light shone out from the array and enveloped their bodies. Mu Bai and the others only felt a terrifying wave of energy spreading out. They realized that everything in front of them had changed drastically in an instant. Their minds were in a trance, as though they had gone through a violent tug. The light in the secret room dissipated, and the robe on Grandmaster Xianming's body also calmed down. The light from the array also returned to normal. The head judge respectfully handed over an elixir to Grandmaster Xianming. After Grandmaster Xianming received it, he consumed it. His ugly expression recovered quite a bit. Grandmaster Xianming, this time, the Heaven's Secret Territory has opened earlier. Is it really all right for us to send them in like this? Do we need to report this to the Palace Master? The head judge asked. It's fine. The Heaven's Secret Territory is not considered dangerous. After all, there are many genius alchemists from our Pill Palace inside. Among them, there are even quite a few alchemists from the Star Pill Tower inside to train. There won't be any danger, and there will only be opportunities. When they come out of the Heaven's Secret Territory, the Star Pill Tower will come and pick them up. However, what this old man is worried about is that this year's #1 isn't an alchemist. What will the Star Pill Tower do then? Grandmaster Xianming said. The head judge was also stunned. Then, he blushed with shame. Who cares? This should be the Star Pill Tower's problem. Heavenly Mist City, within the tall metal buildings. Hanli stood in front of the window and looked in the direction of the Pill Tower. When he saw the energy gathering above the Pill Tower dissipate, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. They finally set off. Commander Han, this little one has found out that Bufong didn't bring the Netherworld woman or the Lord Go with him. He only brought the puppet from his store into the Heaven's Secret Territory, a guard said as he moved to Han Li's side. Han Li nodded his head, and the smile on his face became even wider. It was actually that puppet that stripped his clothes and caused him to lose all his face. From the looks of it, he was going to settle all his old and new debts together. Let's go. Bring your weapons and follow this commander. This time, they don't have the Lord go. How can that bouffon stop me? The Shura Tower will definitely be mine. Also, remember to peel off the iron skin of that puppet piece by piece. Let that puppet have a taste of being stripped. Chapter 570. The Cloud Mist Restaurant was a scene of harmony. You walked around the store barefooted, hugging the blue and white porcelain pot. Her mouth was dripping with grease, and her beautiful face was flushed red. She seemed more lively. Lord Go lay under the path understanding tree, burping as he squinted his eyes. Lass, give Lord Go another strip. Lord Go waved his exquisite paw at you. Yu's figure suddenly stopped. Her slender fingers pinched, and a chili strip flew out of the blue and white porcelain pot, dripping with grease, and floated toward Lord Go. With a slurping sound, Lord Go held the chili strip in his mouth and began to chew. As he chewed, he burped, and the smell of the chili strip filled the air. Yu pouted, and her heart was filled with joy. She hugged the blue and white porcelain pot and continued to wander around. As she wandered around, she ate the chili strip. This woman's red lips were extremely bright due to the chili strip. They emitted a rosy glow, and they were filled with charm. All of a sudden, Yu, who was wandering around, froze. Her long black hair swayed like a waterfall, and she turned her head to look at Lord Go with an innocent expression. Lord, didn't Bouffon tell me to sell this chili strip before he left the store? Nethery asked in a cold voice. Lord Go burped, and the chili strip floated in the air. Lass, you still remember? Don't worry, eat as much as you want. What's there to be afraid of? Since that kid dared to let you sell the chili strip, he should have been prepared to not sell a single one. Lord Go raised his eyes and glanced at you as he chewed on the chili strip. Yu's eyes instantly widened. Really? What's there to be afraid of? Give me another one, Lord Go. If anything happens, Lord Go, will take care of it. Lord Go pursed his lips and waved his paw with a ruffian expression. Little 8, who was sitting on the ground in the distance, seemed to understand the Lord Go's words. He shook his little head, and a trace of disdain appeared in his eyes as he let out a chuckle. Oh, a little chick like you actually dare to laugh at Lord Dog? Beware that the Lord Go will pluck out all the feathers on your body and make you a proud and pampered featherless chicken. The Lord Go glared at little 8 and said. 80 was startled. It flapped its wings, widened its eyes, and quickly ran away, clucking as it ran. Sir, if Bouffon comes back and finds out, will he not cook for us? If your sweet and sour ribs is gone, will my dragon blood rice be gone too? Yu's mouth twitched as she said. The Lord Go was taken aback, and his eyes narrowed. That was really possible. With that brat Bouffon's character, he would really do something so heartless. All right then, lass, how many chili strips are there in the bowl? Let's open a shop for business now. At least we've done business before, right? With our sincerity, that stinky brat won't dare to not cook for us anymore, the Lord Go said with a smile. You pulled at the chili strip in the porcelain bowl and expressionlessly raised her head to look at the Lord Go. There are only 5 left. 5 left? So many? Come, 1 for you, 1 for me, and we'll sell the remaining 3. We're really too heartless. When the Lord Go heard that there were only 5 left, he was surprised. How many chili strips did that brat Bouffon make? He and you had eaten so many that they couldn't even count them, but there were still 5 left. Sir, what you said makes sense. You earnestly nodded her head. Then, with a pinch of her slender fingers, she casually tossed another chili strip. It was covered in oil and flew toward the Lord Go. In the end, the Lord Go held it firmly in his mouth. You also grabbed a chili strip and stuffed it into her mouth. As she chewed, she casually waved her hand, and the bronze door opened with a rumbling sound. Outside the door, light shone, and a boiling cauldron of voices could be heard. Along with the opening of the bronze door, an uproar immediately resounded. The person who led the crowd was Nangong Wuk, whose face was filled with excitement. Ha! Old Boo, you're finally open for business. Nangong Wuk excitedly rushed in, but his voice suddenly stopped. That was because the person in front of him was the cold and aloof Yu. Good morning, Sister you. Eh, sister you. Why are your lips so red? Nangon Wuk looked at you and was instantly bewildered. Nethery's face was expressionless as she glanced at him. With a thud, she placed the blue and white porcelain pot on the table. Bufong isn't here today, but he said that the store's main business today is to sell crazy chili strips. Burp. The atmosphere was slightly awkward. After you finished speaking, she let out a burp filled with the smell of chili strips. Her face was not red, and her heart was not beating fast. Crazy chili strip? Although Nangong Wuk's expression was strange, his eyes were still filled with excitement. Wasn't that the dish that Old Bu used to win the championship? He had to try it. It was too meaningful. Give me one. A 6-mark spirit pill that could defeat White Demon Zhongling is definitely not an ordinary dish. Nangong Wuk said. Behind Nangong Wuk, there were many people who were extremely excited. Chili strips. When they saw the scene of the 500 judges fighting for the chili strips on the stage, it was simply too shocking. That kind of delicacy. Who wouldn't want to try it? Sorceress and Sheng couldn't wait any longer. She swayed her voluptuous waist and came to Nangong Wuk's side. Give me one too. It doesn't matter how many crystals it costs. Nangong Wuk also stuck her head out and smiled at you. Yu's face was expressionless. She seriously looked at the three of them and slowly opened her mouth. You guys are very lucky. This time, Bufong only made 3 chili strips. You guys can have one each. Perfect burp. Everyone was stunned, including the customers who were crowding outside and eavesdropping. There were several hundred people here. You told us that there were only 3 chili strips? Was Honorable a fool? Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that there would be many customers today. Nangong Wuk had a strange expression on his face. If you hadn't burped, he might have believed her. After all, she was the Netherworld woman. However, her burp had already exposed everything. Burp! In the distance, another burp suddenly resounded. The burp was filled with chili strips. Nangong Wuk took a deep breath. His eyes widened as he looked at Lord Go. It couldn't be, right? How many chili strips did these 2 big shots eat? He felt sorry for Ownerbu for a second. Huh? You don't believe me? Do you still want to buy it? You said coldly. Her eyes instantly turned pitch black, causing Nangong Wuk's body to stiffen. Nethery, can we not threaten each other? If we can talk, can we not use force? I believe you. If I, Nangong Wuk, don't trust Nethery, who do I trust? Isn't it just 3 chili strips? I'll buy them all. Nangong Wuk said domineeringly. One for each of us. I am very reasonable, you said. Sorceress in Sheng's chest heaved up and down as she heaved a deep sigh of relief. 1 chili strip costs 15,000 crystals. Bufong set the price. He is fair to all, you said. Pooh, Nangong Wuk almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Nethery, do you think we are blind? Isn't Bufong's price on the menu behind us? Chili strip. 1 chili strip costs 1,500 crystals. Huh? You don't believe me? Do you still want to buy it? Yu's eyes instantly turned pitch black. Nangong Wuk was dumbfounded. Why do these words sound so familiar? Nethery, didn't you say it before? In the end, Nangong Wuk and the other 2 speechlessly spent 15,000 crystals to buy a chili strip. When they bit the chili strip, they felt as if they were biting a spirit pill. Their hearts twitched. Blackie, who was under the path understanding tree, rolled its eyes. This lass had been led astray by Bufong. She used to be such a pure netherworld woman, but now she had become so black-bellied. However, the Lord Go was very satisfied. Burp! The light flickered. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Bufong felt much more clear-headed. Slowly opening his eyes, he felt a stinging pain in front of his eyes. That was because the light that suddenly lit up was too dazzling. Have you recovered? If you have, then follow me. Just as Bufong opened his eyes and saw the things in front of him, a cold voice rang in his ears. Bufong found himself in an open-air hall. The surrounding buildings were carved with flying dragons and dancing phoenixes. They were rather exquisite and were made of very hard stone. The ground was carved with the same array as the one in the Pill Pagoda. Where is this? Bufong asked. The person who spoke sneered and glanced at Bufong. Did you become stupid from sitting in the teleportation array? Of course, this is the heaven's secret territory. What do you think this is? This person was a young man wearing an alchemist robe. However, it was different from the alchemist robes that Bufong often saw. Other than the bright clouds on this guy's robe, there was also a star badge made of metal hanging on his chest. Owner Bu, this should be the elder in charge of receiving us from the Star Pill Pagoda. Mubai smiled warmly and nodded at the young man. What are you smiling at? Don't be so long-winded. Let's go. If I can't make it to Lord Huang Fuha's inheritance lecture, I won't let you off. The young man ignored Mu Bai's greeting and coldly glanced at the three of them. Huang Fuha? Could it be the previous palace Lord Huang Fuha? Mu Bai was stunned. In the next moment, he was shocked. Oh, you actually know about Huang Fuha? The young man was also stunned. I was fortunate enough to hear about him from the palace lord. Mu Bai smiled. This guy was actually related to the palace lord. It seemed that the top three of the Magical Hand Conference this time were not ordinary. The young man thought of this, and his expression became much warmer. Oh, since Junior has heard of Lord Huang Fuha, then let's go together. After all, this is an opportunity, and it belongs to those who are fated, the young man said. Oh, I'll have to trouble Senior to lead the way, Mu Bai said respectfully. He was indeed a gentle and refined person. Looking at Mu Bai, who had instantly become friends with the arrogant young man, Bufong was also a little speechless. You two should also follow me, the young man said impatiently as he looked at Bufong, and Jiangling. Bufong patted Xiao Bai's round belly and ignored the young man. He turned around and walked away. Jiangling also glanced at the young man indifferently. The corner of her mouth twitched, and she coldly laughed. Then she left. This was a little awkward. Owner Bu, Senior Jiangling, aren't the two of you coming with us? Master Huang Fuha's inheritance lecture is hard to come by, Mu Bai hurriedly said as he looked at their backs. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched, and he waved his hand. Jiangling glanced at Mu Bai and then at the young man. She coldly snorted and turned around to leave. The three of them went their separate ways. Jiangling seemed to have a goal. She didn't stop and walked toward a direction. Bufong, on the other hand, walked aimlessly. He came to the secret territory to search for the true dragon fruit. With you selling chili strips in the Cloud Mist restaurant, he didn't need to worry about the business. This made Bufong feel a little relaxed. Oh, the newcomers these days are really arrogant. Very soon, they will know how miserable it is to have no one to lead the way in the Heaven's secret territory. Oh, right. Junior, are you the champion of this Magical Hand Conference? The fifth elder wants to see you. The young man disdainfully glanced at the disappearing figures of Bufong and Jiangling, then turned his head to look at Mu Bai and said. Mu Bai was stunned. Instantly, his face was filled with pain. Chapter 571. The Heaven's Secret Territory was the largest secret territory within the boundaries of the Pill Palace. There were countless opportunities inside, and there were even more ancient inheritances. Actually, every secret territory was a place where opportunities and dangers existed side by side. Every secret territory could be seen as a broken world. Those worlds should have been quietly flowing in the ruins of space, but they were opened up by some experts of the Hidden Dragon Continent. Hence, these secret territories became an endless supply of treasures for the Hidden Dragon Continent, just like a back garden. Strictly speaking, the so-called mystic realms were things from other worlds, and some of the inheritances inside were from the mystic realms themselves. There were also some experts who chose the mystic realms as their tombs and were buried in the mystic realms, leaving behind their inheritances. Hence, exploring the secret territory became something that the big powers of the Hidden Dragon Continent liked to do. Because in the process of exploring the secret territory, they might discover some inheritance of an expert. Then, they would reach the heavens in one step. Just like the previous palace master of the Pill Palace, Huang Fuha, he chose to bury himself in the heaven's secret territory. He also left behind his inheritance and opened a palace for his teachings. Countless experts of the Pill Palace dreamed of stepping into the Heaven's secret territory just to listen to Huang Fu's teachings. Because what he talked about was not only the way of alchemy, but also the way of controlling fire. Also, the previous palace master Huang Fu's alchemy fire, the highly ranked heaven and earth obsidian flame, the 10,000 heavenly flames, was also in this place of inheritance. This was the reason why countless alchemists kept coming. Of course, to Bufang, he had no interest in the palace master's teachings. Because he was not an alchemist, his goal was to become the god of cooking who stood at the top of the fantasy world. The Tao of alchemy was not even as tempting as a true dragon fruit. The Heaven's secret territory was very big, and it was different from the secret territory he went to last time. In this secret territory, there seemed to be more continents. There was solid ground everywhere, and the sky was clear and blue, with warm sunlight. It was simply like a complete world. As far as the eye could see, it was a continuous mountain range with all sorts of towering trees, giving off an unfathomable feeling. Xiaobai stood beside Bufang, his eyes twinkling. Xiaopi was lying on Xiaobai's head, blowing bubbles. Our goal here is to search for the true dragon fruit. This continuous mountain range is endless, so there might really be a true dragon fruit here, Bufang said. In the next instant, he patted Xiaobai's plump belly and walked forward. Not long after, the figure of a man and a puppet disappeared into the dense forest. A terrifying aura burst forth from Jiangling's body. Her entire body shot out like an arrow, shuttling through the dense forest with such speed that it was almost dazzling to the eyes. Her white hair fluttered as she moved at high speed. Her eyes were filled with determination as she looked in a certain direction. Her eyes were filled with excitement. Back then, Teacher was expelled from the Heaven's secret territory because of this secret. Now that I can finally step into the secret territory, I must fulfill Teacher's wish. We must obtain that inheritance. Taking in a deep breath, Jiangling's face flushed red. Rustle, her figure flashed past, causing a few leaves to quietly float down. And at the same time, at the location of the teleportation array, rays of light flashed. When the light dissipated, Han Li's silhouette wearing a silver armor was revealed. Heaven's secret territory? Here, that scary black dog should not be able to help that damned chef anymore, right? Everyone pay attention. Right now, we only have one goal, and that is to capture that chef, Han Li said coldly. The guards behind him all excitedly waved their weapons. After the mobilization was over, Han Li took a step forward and walked towards the Heaven's secret territory. After walking a few steps, he flipped his hand and a jade talisman appeared. He crushed the jade talisman and instantly, a white dog with its tongue hanging out appeared. Once this white dog appeared, it rolled on the ground. The corner of Han Li's mouth curled up as he rubbed the white dog's head. In the next instant, he took out a black elixir for the white dog to consume. Go and find the target that your owner is looking for. Han Li moved closer to the dog's ear and lightly said. That white dog's eyes instantly lit up. In the next instant, the fur on its body actually turned red. Its dog paws fiercely dug into the ground, and its figure rapidly shot out, its speed like the wind. Everyone follow. After Han Li let out an explosive roar, his figure quickly followed after them. That white dog that had turned red stuck out its tongue. As it sprinted, its tongue swung around randomly, saliva splashing everywhere. However, its speed was extremely fast, and the direction that this dog sprinted towards was the direction that Bufang disappeared in. Rip! On top of a small hill in the Heaven's secret territory, the air suddenly twisted and a crack appeared. In the next instant, the empty space was like a broken mirror, densely covered with cracks. Within the crack, two figures stepped out from within the crack. These two people wore blood-colored robes, and their hair had also turned blood-colored. It was a man and a woman. The woman was graceful and luxurious, her appearance strangely beautiful. Her slender legs were as straight as mutton-fat jade, sparkling and translucent, as if emitting a sparkling radiance, attracting the eyes of others. This woman was the Shura saintess that was taken away by the Shura sovereign's clone previously. Beside her was a handsome youth with a head of freshly trained short red hair. His figure was well-proportioned, and his skin was bronze in color. On his back was a long red spear, the tip of the spear flashing with a terrifying brilliance. Your Highness Saintess, the previous failure cannot be blamed on you. Even the Shura sovereign's clone was destroyed. The opponent's strength is already not something that you can deal with. You don't need to blame yourself, the man gently said. The saintess's long eyelashes trembled. Thinking back to the scene that happened in Heavenly Mist City, she couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. That black dog was too terrifying. With just a bark, it destroyed the Shura sovereign's clone. What kind of god was that? The Shura tower had fallen into the hands of that kind of existence. How was she going to get it back? Luo Li, I know that you are comforting me. You don't need to comfort me. A failure is a failure. I admit it, the saintess calmly said. The youth smiled. He turned his head to look at the heaven's secret territory that was covered by a continuous mountain range. He smiled and said, Your Highness Saintess, we failed the last time. This time, we should make up for our mistakes. The inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant. Lord Shura Sovereign has specially instructed us to snatch it. The saintess's heart moved. The inheritance of an ancient expert at the peak of the divine soul realm. The inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant is indeed extraordinary. I heard that the Supreme Blade Tyrant's Slaughter God Blade is also in the inheritance. That's right. As long as we obtain the inheritance, we can soar into the sky. At that time, we can kill our way back to the Pill Palace, destroy the entire Pill Palace, and take back the Shura Tower. The corner of Luo Li's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of excitement. The saintess glanced at him and coldly smiled. Honestly speaking, the saintess really didn't believe that after obtaining the inheritance, they would be able to kill that black dog. That black dog was really too terrifying. It was too unfathomable. Roar! The angry roar of a spirit beast resounded. The sound of the roar instantly resounded, and within the dense forest, a flock of startled birds fluttered about. In the next instant, within the dense forest, a giant black walk suddenly appeared. The black walk ruthlessly smashed downwards, causing the entire ground to tremble. Bu Fong snapped his fingers, and the black turtle constellation walk instantly shrunk back to its original size. It flew into his hand, and he held it in his hand. In the distance, on the ground, a giant gray wolf was smashed to the point of death. This was a divine physique echelon realm spirit beast that had broken through 2 of the Supreme Being's shackles. Unfortunately, in front of Bu Fong's black turtle constellation walk, it could only be crushed. Although the current Bu Fong's cultivation had only broken through 1 of the Supreme Being's shackles, when the black walk smashed down, even an expert who had broken through 3 of the Supreme Being's shackles would not be able to withstand it. Along the way, Bu Fong had already encountered more than 10 attacks from spirit beasts. Moreover, all of them were divine physique echelon realm spirit beasts. No wonder it was said that the secret territory was extremely dangerous. If an ordinary person encountered so many spirit beasts in the secret territory, they would have already suffered. Bu Fong walked in front of the gray wolf, patted its body, and furrowed his brows. This meat is too tough. The dishes I make will definitely not taste good. Forget it. I don't want this wolf anymore. Xiao Bai's purple eyes flickered, and he followed closely behind Bu Fong. Carrying the black turtle constellation walk, Bu Fong continued forward. Suddenly, Bu Fong's footsteps stopped, and his eyebrows twitched. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at the surrounding dense forest. Rays of scarlet light flickered, and a low howl of a wolf could be heard. Within the dark forest, wolves slowly emerged one after another. The strength of these wolves varied, but there were many divine physique echelon realm wolves among them. Bu Fong's heart froze. Did he encounter a pack of wolves? His luck was really not that good. Roar! A much larger gray wolf stood on top of a rock, and its scarlet eyes stared at Bu Fong. It opened its mouth and howled angrily. In the next moment, the howls of wolves resounded. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been frightened to the point that their legs would have turned to jelly. Even if they had severed 3 shackles, facing such a situation, only death would await them. After all, they had encountered an entire pack of wolves, an extremely terrifying pack of wolves. However, Bufong was very calm. He squinted his eyes and stared at the wolf. That wolf's body was very sturdy, and Bufong's eyes lit up slightly. Oh, the meat quality of this wolf is much better. It's not bad as an ingredient. The Grey Wolf King felt that this human was looking down on it. What kind of gaze was that? It had always been the Grey Wolf King looking at people like that. Since when did a stupid human dare to look at it like that? Did he really think that it was an ingredient? Roar. Just you wait. 300 wolves will tear you, a human, into pieces and turn you into an ingredient for the wolves. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the metal wings on Xiao Bai's back slowly retracted, and his purple eyes flickered. He single-handedly dragged the fat Grey Wolf King to stand in front of Bufong. Bufong pinched the Grey Wolf King meat in satisfaction, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Not bad. I can eat the Flower Wolf King meat tonight. With a wave of his hand, the black turtle constellation walk in the distance flew back to his hand. With a bang, the black turtle constellation walk turned into smoke and dispersed. After storing the Grey Wolf King's corpse into the system dimensional storage, Bufong looked at the wolf corpses on the ground and sighed. Let's go, Xiao Bai. The sooner we find the true dragon fruit, we can go back, Bufong said. After saying that, he brought Xiao Bai and prepared to leave. However, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. There seemed to be a strange feeling in his heart. He suddenly turned his head and looked at the wolf corpses on the ground. He saw the gurgling blood flow, and in an instant the ground was soaked. In the next moment, the blood was sucked into the ground with a swoosh, and at this moment, the ground also started to squirm. Rumble. A deafening sound rang out. Bufong's face was filled with astonishment as he realized that the ground under his feet had started to crumble. A huge suction force burst forth from within. Chapter 572. After absorbing the fresh blood, the ground seemed to have undergone some strange changes. It violently undulated and shook, just like a wriggling stomach wall. After wriggling for a while, the ground suddenly shattered, and the gravel was sucked into the bottomless abyss. The terrifying suction force made Bufong and Xiao Bai a little dumbfounded. Rumble. The ground cracked open, like a giant mouth of an abyss devil, wanting to swallow Bufong and Xiao Bai completely. Xiao Bai's purple eyes flashed, and the metal wings on his back instantly spread open. Clanging sounds resounded unceasingly, and his purple eyes also turned ash-gray in that instant. The fan-like palm grabbed Bufong's body, preventing Bufong from being sucked into that giant suction force. The metal wings flapped hard, stirring up a strong gust of wind, causing the two of them to fly rapidly toward the ground. Bufong was a little shocked because he realized that his flying ability as a Divine Realm expert couldn't be used in front of this suction force. It was as if this place had forbidden him from flying, making it impossible for him to fly. Xiao Bai had wings, so he could use the airflow caused by the flapping of his wings to stabilize his body. However, as the suction force in the darkness became stronger and stronger, Xiao Bai and Bufong's bodies were continuously sucked into it. Xiaopi was coiled up on Xiao Bai's round head. His small eyes were wide open, and his small legs hurriedly attached to Xiao Bai's body, preventing him from being sucked into the ground by the airflow. However, as the suction force became stronger, Xiaopi felt that he couldn't hold on anymore. Finally, Xiaopi's body couldn't be attached to Xiao Bai's head anymore, and he was completely sucked in. His small eyes revealed a frightened expression because he was still sleeping soundly, blowing bubbles. What happened suddenly was beyond his expectations. What the hell? Why was it so hard to let a shrimp have a good sleep? Buzz. Buzz, the terrifying suction caused a gust of wind, causing the velvet rope binding Bufong's hair to snap. Bufong's hair fluttered wildly in the air. In the next moment, Xiaobai couldn't hold on any longer. The strong wind created by the flapping wings couldn't support their bodies anymore. Just like that, the man and the puppet were sucked into the ground. In the dense forest, two figures walked slowly. One was fat and the other was thin. The fat man grabbed a greasy chicken leg from his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. After chewing a few times, he swallowed it, including the skin and bones. The thin figure carried a black wok on his back, and his face was gloomy and wretched. "Brother, how much longer do we have to walk? Why did Martial Uncle leave us in this godforsaken place?" The fat figure asked the skinny figure. As he asked, he took out a chicken drumstick from his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth, causing his mouth to bulge. "Shut up. Don't make a fuss." Martial Uncle said that this is some heaven secret territory and that there are opportunities here. He told us to find our own opportunities. Don't just eat chicken drumsticks all day. Increase your cultivation so that when you meet your enemies, you'll have the ability to take revenge. The skinny figure suddenly turned around and roared at the fat man. The fat man was startled. The chicken drumstick that he had just taken out fell onto the floor. "Brother, why are you scaring me? Look, my chicken drumstick has fallen off." The fat man felt wronged. The skinny figure speechlessly rubbed his forehead. Why did he have such a silly brother? "Master is dead. We want to take revenge for him, but we don't have enough strength. Martial Uncle will bring us to cultivate. As we cultivate, we'll practice the culinary skills that Martial Uncle taught us. When that time comes, we'll return to the Light Wind Empire and use our culinary skills to ruthlessly defeat our enemies." That guy's most proud of his culinary skills. If we defeat him in his proudest area, he'll definitely suffer a fate worse than death. The skinny figure clenched his teeth and said, "Slurp, slurp. Brother, are you talking about Onorbu? Onorbu's culinary skills are indeed amazing. Moreover, while we're improving, Onorbu is also improving. We feel that we can't win against him." The fat man took out another chicken drumstick and happily bit into it. The chicken drumstick bones flew everywhere. "Are you stupid? We have Martial Uncle. Martial Uncle used to be a disciple of the Valley of Gluttony." The skinny figure roared. The fat man was instantly stunned and stuffed the chicken drumstick into his mouth. "Brother, what kind of place is the Valley of Gluttony?" The skinny figure suddenly froze. His face stiffened and he smacked his lips. "Just eat your chicken drumstick. Who cares so much? Anyway, the Valley of Gluttony is definitely an amazing place. Martial Uncle said it's amazing. What if Martial Uncle is lying to us?" The fat man said, "What do we have that's worth being lied to by Martial Uncle?" The skinny figure looked at the fat man as if he was looking at an idiot. The fat man's eyes instantly shrank and the fat on his body trembled. "Yes, my chicken drumstick." The skinny figure instantly had a pained expression. "Alu, you better not eat the chicken drumstick. The more you eat, the dumber you get." The fat Alu instantly smiled foolishly at the skinny figure and continued to take out a chicken drumstick to eat. The two of them quarreled as they walked in the dense forest. Suddenly, the two of them felt that there was nothing under their feet, and a huge suction force suddenly burst forth. The fat on Alu's body instantly flew up, and his whole body rapidly fell. The skinny Alway's eyes shrank, and with an angry roar, the black wok on his back was thrown up and instantly became bigger, trying to support his body. However, the black hole in the ground also became bigger, and Alway was sucked into it together with the black wok. A dog's bark came from afar and approached. A white figure rapidly scurried in the dense forest. Behind him were experts in silver armor. Suddenly, the white figure stopped in place and stopped trembling. It fell to the ground and began to roll around. "Is this the place?" Hanli ordered his subordinates to stop. He also stabilized his body and rubbed the head of the white dog that was rolling on the ground. He raised his head and looked around. This was a dense forest, deep and quiet. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood, which caused Hanli to involuntarily furrow his brows. There's something wrong with this place. Such a thick smell of blood. Could this be a dangerous place? But why would that fellow Buffon come here? Puff, puff, puff. That white dog stuck out its tongue and licked Han Li's face. Han Li rubbed the latter's head and said with a smile, "You did well. Go back and rest for a while." A jade talisman floated out, and that white dog instantly disappeared. Keeping the jade talisman, Han Li stood up. He glanced at the guards standing around and coldly said, "All of you, search for him. That Bufong is definitely nearby. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you must find him for me." The guards instantly responded at the same time. However, in the next moment before the guards could leave, the ground started to move. Like Bufong, Han Li and the rest were also sucked into the terrifying suction force, disappearing without a trace. Bufong's head was a little muddled. He felt that his body was warm and his face was a little moist. He opened his drowsy eyes. He realized that Xiaopi was lying on his face, staring at him with its small eyes. That little leg was slowly crawling on his face, making him feel a little itchy. Xiaobai sat in the distance, rubbing his head with a dumbfounded expression. His purple eyes flashed, but he was not injured. Where was this place? Bufong sat up. His surroundings were pitch black. However, because of the vermilion robe on his body that was emitting a fiery red light, the surroundings were not that dark. Taking the mischievous Xiaopi off his face and placing it on his shoulder, Bufong began to size up his surroundings. The surroundings were filled with jagged rocks. Those rocks were suffused with a blood-red color and looked rather sinister. Where is this place? Why does it feel so strange? Bufong muttered in confusion. Xiaobai was standing behind him, but he did not know anything. Bufong felt that there seemed to be a strange pressure here. This pressure pressed down on his body, making it difficult for him to revolve his true energy. Although his strength had weakened a lot, this was not the main point. The main point was that in this area, he seemed to be unable to fly. This area seemed to forbid the ability to fly. Bringing Xiaobai with him, Bufong began to walk in this crisscrossed underground. The red stones on the walls were sinister and terrifying. They were covered with red plants, emitting a somewhat sticky and moist gas. Bufong pulled down a small handful of red plants. After taking a closer look, he realized that this plant was actually made up of small granules. This place was really a little strange. After walking for a long time, the area in front of him suddenly lit up. Bufong froze and increased his speed. That hole wasn't big, just enough for one person to pass through. Bufong squeezed through, but Xiaobai's huge body couldn't go through. Xiaobai's purple eyes flashed. He took a step back and raised his fist, punching the hole. With a loud rumble, the entire cave entrance was blasted open. Xiaobai safely squeezed through, standing beside Bufong. This is the official road. Bufong looked at the tidally paved ground. Looking at the majestic city in front of him, his face was bewildered. How could there be such a huge stone city underground? Previously, the place they had squeezed through was a broken hole. After they got out, they came to this official road. On both sides of the official road were stone walls paved with bricks. Inside those stone walls were the red stones, and inside those stones were the red granules of plants. There was something strange about this place. Bufong and Xiaobai looked at each other. Without hesitation, they walked toward that big city. Since they were already here, they might as well take things as they could. Since they were already here, they might as well go and see the big city. Maybe there were people inside. This big city was really big. The top was the ground, which was inlaid with many white crystals. Those crystals emitted a radiance, making the whole ground as bright as day. The city gate was really big, incomparably tall. Bufong and Xiaobai stood in front of the city gate, their faces bewildered. Why didn't this big city have a name? Why didn't the city gate have a name? The style of this big city was obviously not the style of any of the big cities. Moreover, Bufong always felt that this big city was a little gloomy, as if it was emitting a thick death energy. Tap, tap, tap. All of a sudden, Bufong's ears twitched. He seemed to hear the clear sound of footsteps. Who's there? Bufong narrowed his eyes, turning his head to look. There, 2 figures slowly walked over. Besides the sound of footsteps, there was also the sound of chewing, which made people's hair stand on end. Crunch, crunch. It seemed to be the sound of bones being chewed. Bufong's brows twitched, and he couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end. In a city of death that was filled with death energy, there was such a bone-chilling, chewing sound. How could he not be scared? Could it be something dirty? Bufong didn't know. He stared at the two figures slowly walking over from a distance. Soon, the two figures emerged from the dense fog surrounding the big city. One was fat, and the other was skinny. The fat man was holding a chicken drumstick in his hand, chewing it excitedly. Since Bufong saw them, they naturally saw Bufong. The two sides looked at each other, and they were both bewildered. A moment later, Bufong saw the skinny man with the black walk on his back roar, rushing toward him. Chapter 573. Even Bufong was taken aback by the roar. The thin man, who was charging at him with a wok in his hand, made Bufong freeze on the spot. Usually it was him, Bufong, who smashed people with a black wok. Today, someone came to smash him with a wok. That feeling was a little strange. Bufong was a little speechless. That thin man looked ferocious, and his body was a little short. However, when he held the wok, he was like a tiger, as though he was about to smash the air. That thin man's aura wasn't strong. With the current Bufong, he could easily sense that this thin man's cultivation base was just a supreme being. Moreover, he wasn't even at the peak of supreme being. To Bufong, this kind of opponent wasn't a threat at all. Bufong indifferently glanced at that person. Behind him, Xiao Bai's purple eyes twinkled. He took a step forward, and his palm leaf-shaped palm swung down. A muffled boom resounded. That thin man's wok was smashed away. With a thud, it fell on the ground in the distance. The thin man's face changed. His body rolled, landing on the ground, and he picked up his black wok. His black wok wasn't an ordinary black wok. It was a spirit tool, a powerful spirit tool. However, facing the puppet in front of him, his spirit tool didn't have the slightest effect. You look a little familiar. Bufong looked at that thin man, his brows slightly twitching as he said in astonishment. In the distance, that fat man finally walked over, panting. Looking at Bufong, he smiled, holding a chicken drumstick in his hand, and stuffed it into his mouth. "Honorbu, long time no see," the fat man said while chewing on the drumstick. Bufong looked at the fat man, then at the thin man. His eyes showed that he suddenly understood something. "Oh, it's you guys. Indeed, long time no see." Bufong finally remembered who these two brothers were. Weren't they the two brothers who had competed with him in culinary skills back in the Light Wind Empire? Bufong remembered that these two brothers had pretty good culinary skills. If they hadn't met him, these two brothers might have really gotten first place in a 100-family banquet. "That's right. Long time no see. I, Aowei, have been thinking of you day and night." The skinny Aowei stood up and glared at Bufong as he spoke coldly. Xiao Bai's eyes flickered, and he swept a glance at Aowei, scaring the latter into retreating repeatedly. He was still afraid of the unfathomable Xiao Bai. "That's enough. Why are you here?" Bufong asked. Fatty Alu took out another chicken drumstick and placed it in his mouth. Crunching and crunching sounds rang out. "We don't know. We fell into it while we were walking," Alu said. Bufong furrowed his brows. He turned his head to look at the majestic underground city in the distance, and felt that something was wrong. "All right, since we're all old acquaintances from the Light Wind Empire, let's move together. This mysterious city must be hiding a lot of secrets. Let's go in together," Bufong said as he glanced at the two brothers. Awei's expression turned ruthless. He swung the black wok in his hand and created a gust of wind. "Who's old acquaintance with you? We'll explore this city ourselves. We won't team up with you. Remember this. I, Awei, will avenge my master one day." Alu also gave a silly smile and nodded as he chewed on a chicken drumstick. The corners of Bufong's mouth twitched. In the next moment, Awei smacked Alu with the black wok, and the two of them quickly rushed toward the city gate in the distance. Not long after, a heavy creaking sound rang out, and the towering stone gate suddenly rumbled open. Was this gate opened by the two brothers? Bufong's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the city that seemed to have shaken for a moment and led Xiao Bai toward the city. As they approached the city, a majestic pressure grew stronger and stronger. Even though Bufang was not afraid of the pressure and it did not affect him the slightest, the majestic pressure of this city still made his heart palpitate slightly. He stretched out his slender palm and stroked the mottled stones of the city wall. The smooth feeling was enough to prove the construction level of this underground city. There were many drawings drawn on the towering city gate. The drawings were bloody and violent. Even though the drawings were abstract, Bufang could still understand them. The entire drawing was narrating a supreme story. The master of the city ruled over everything, and anyone who disobeyed him would be chopped into pieces by his blade. Just from the drawing alone, Bufang could feel a domineering will. Looking at the situation inside the city through the crack of the gate, Bufang saw that the two brothers Alu and Wei had already disappeared. Bufang patted Xiao Bai's chubby little belly and walked toward the city. Once he entered the city, Bufang felt a wave of pressure acting on his body. This pressure seemed to be able to restrict one's cultivation and would make one feel a sense of reverence. However, because of his system, Bufang could ignore the pressure. The inside of the city was very spacious, but it was also very quiet. There was not a single person in sight. The buildings inside the city were incomparably majestic. There were tall buildings, shops, and stalls. As long as it was something that a big city should have, it could be found here. However, the only thing that was missing was people. A wave of gloomy aura spread out from the city, making people feel a gloomy and cold feeling. Suddenly, Bufang seemed to have sensed something and looked toward a direction. However, there was nothing there. However, Bufang dared to confirm that there was someone spying on him. With his current mental force, he could easily sense that someone was spying on him. Narrowing his eyes, Bufang felt that this big city was not ordinary. He kept feeling that a wave of danger was approaching him. Bufang swept his gaze around for a while. Suddenly, his heart shook and he looked around. Within the big city, there was fog. There was actually fog in the underground city. The fog slowly drifted out from the city and slowly covered everything. Soon, it covered Bufang's figure. "Commander Han, there seems to be a big city in the distance." A guard stared and shouted to Han Li, who was behind him. His shouts reverberated throughout the underground space. "I saw it, don't shout." Han Li's gaze was solemn as he looked into the distance. His mind was shaken. A big underground city. It was actually a big underground city. Han Li took a deep breath, and his eyes immediately revealed a trace of excitement. He knew that he had met a treasure. In the Heaven's Secret territory, encountering a big underground city meant that he had met the tomb of an expert. And since it was the tomb of an expert, there would definitely be an inheritance that belonged to that expert. Also, looking at the size of the big city, the inheritance of this expert was definitely not an ordinary inheritance. "Go, let's quickly go over. We might have met an opportunity," Han Li shouted. His eyes revealed a trace of excitement. This kind of big city tomb was definitely not ordinary. And to dare to use such a big city as a tomb, that was even more extraordinary. Could it be the tomb of some ancient expert? Han Li's entire heart became excited. He did not think that while chasing after that brat Bufang, he would actually encounter such a good thing. Very quickly, this group of people arrived in front of the city gate. They all stared at the picture on the city gate with their mouths agape. Han Li sucked in a cold breath, and his face became a little red. This is the inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant. Oh my God, we actually randomly found the inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant. Han Li's entire person was excited. His entire body was trembling. He took off the silver helmet on his head, and his eyes revealed a bright light. Naturally, his guard were also so excited that they couldn't even speak properly, and their words were incoherent. The Supreme Blade Tyrant. That was an ancient expert at the peak of the Divine Soul Realm. Compared to the current Pill Palace Master, he was probably much stronger. How could an inheritance of that level be weak? If they could obtain this inheritance, they might be able to reach the heavens in one step and obtain a huge breakthrough in their cultivation. Hanley took a deep breath and calmed the excitement in his heart. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the group of guards behind him. "Do any of you know how to cook?" Hanley asked seriously. The group of guards instantly had a face of confusion. Cook? Why did the commander ask this for no reason? They were the guards of the Pill Palace. If he said that he knew how to refine pills, it was still possible. But if he said that he knew how to cook, what did that have to do with them? According to the rumors, the Supreme Blade Tyrant was a big glutton. His slaughter god blade had killed many spirit beasts and even divine beasts. And the corpses of those spirit beasts and divine beasts became delicious dishes. And if we want to obtain the inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant, it is very likely that it has something to do with cooking, Hanley said. The guards were stunned. There was such a secret. They really did not know about it. Hanley looked at the group of guards and realized that they did not seem to know how to cook. He instantly felt a headache. However, since they had already come here, they could not just give up, right? There would always be a way out. Let's go in and take a look. Forget it. Let's go. Let's enter the city. No matter what, we must obtain the inheritance. In a while, once the inheritance is opened, the entire Heaven's Secret territory will discover it. At that time, we will not have many chances, Hanley said. After saying that, he took the lead and rushed towards the big city. The guards also fought to be the first to catch up. Facing the inheritance of an expert at the peak of the Divine Soul realm, no one could remain calm. In the midst of the thick fog, everything in front of them was a blur. Even if Bufang's cultivation had increased by quite a bit and his perception was even more terrifying, he still realized that his vision was less than 5 meters. Everything in front of him was a blur. This thick fog seemed to be a little strange, causing people's perception to become a little weak. Xiaobai blindly followed behind Bufang. His purple eyes flashed and light shot out. In the thick fog, 2 rays of purple light shot out. Woo woo woo. In the thick fog, a whimpering sound suddenly came. This sound caused people's hairs to stand on end. Suddenly, Bufang's mind shook. In the next instant, in the thick fog, a figure suddenly appeared. The figure started from blurry and gradually became clearer. The sound of footsteps rang out. That sound quickly rushed out from the thick fog, pouncing towards Bufang. However, when Bufang saw this figure clearly, his expression instantly became strange. This was a headless person, or it could be said to be a headless chef. He was wearing a chef robe, with one hand holding a knife and the other holding a ladle. With a majestic aura, he rushed towards Bufang. The kitchen knife flashed with light, incomparably sharp. The whimpering sound came from the headless chef's body, causing people's hairs to stand on end and their scalps to go numb. Chapter 574. A headless chef. What kind of headless chef was that? Looking at the headless chef, who was holding a kitchen knife in one hand and a ladle in the other, whimpering as he dashed toward him, Bufang's scalp went numb. In this remote and strange city, a headless chef suddenly jumped out. Who wouldn't be shocked by this? Even someone as calm as Bufang was a little flustered. However, Bufang's state of mind was strong. Even though that chef's appearance was a little scary, Bufang calmed down after the initial panic. Green smoke curled around his hand. Then the black turtle constellation walk appeared. True energy flowed in, and the black turtle constellation walk instantly emitted a golden light. Go! A loud sound rang out. The black turtle constellation walk instantly whistled, and the air seemed to be shattered at this moment. The fog was blown away by the strong wind. That headless chef was directly smashed by the black turtle constellation walk and was thrown high up into the sky. He landed on the ground far away, letting out a loud thud. Bufang took a deep breath, and the golden light on the black turtle constellation walk instantly dispersed. Bufang carried the black turtle constellation walk and walked toward that headless chef, step by step. The headless chef seemed to have been smashed by Bufang's walk, and he fell to the ground, not moving an inch. Bufang carried the walk and stood in front of the headless chef, his brows gradually furrowed. In the next instant, that headless chef, who was lying on the ground, suddenly jumped up, and the sharp kitchen knife slashed toward Bufong. The knife flashed, and it seemed to contain a trace of mysterious knife skills. Bang! Bufong expressionlessly smashed the wok down again, and that headless chef fell to the ground again. "What is this thing?" Bufong stared at that headless chef and muttered. In the next instant, that chef exploded again, waving his kitchen knife and slashing toward Bufong. Bufong mercilessly smashed the wok again, and the chef was smashed to the ground again. After being smashed many times, the chef finally stopped moving. Bufong squatted down, took the kitchen knife from the chef's hand, and raised his eyebrows. As soon as he held the kitchen knife, Bufong felt a wave of sinister energy trying to drill into his body. This kitchen knife is a little evil. Where did this headless chef come from? How could there be a chef in a big city? Why didn't this chef have a brain? Bufong's mind was filled with doubts, but he didn't ask the headless chef because he knew that the chef wouldn't speak. Bufong stood up, and the headless chef's body gradually stiffened. In the next instant, it turned into yellow sand on the ground and was blown away by the wind. The headless chef disappeared. The kitchen knife in Bufong's hand also turned into gravel, rolling down. At the same time, the whimpering sounds became louder and louder. Numerous headless figures emerged from the thick fog that shrouded the surroundings. Bufong felt as though he was surrounded by a group of headless chefs. How could there be an army of headless chefs in this big city? Was this a joke? Bufong took a deep breath and kept the black turtle constellation wok. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand, and true energy flowed into it. The dragon bone kitchen knife instantly shone with a resplendent golden radiance. Carrying the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bufong's domineering gaze swept around. He looked at the figures of the headless chefs that appeared in his vision. These headless chefs all looked the same. They held a kitchen knife in one hand and a ladle in the other. Moreover, their chef robes were all dirty, and their energy was strange. As these headless chefs surrounded him, Bufong's heart was incomparably calm. With a wave of the dragon bone kitchen knife, a wave of domineering aura instantly burst out from Bufong's body. Overlord 13 Blades, advancing courageously. This was a battle between chefs. "Come," Bufong calmly said. However, in the next instant he was stunned. This was because the bodies of the surrounding headless chefs stiffened the moment Bufong waved the dragon bone kitchen knife. In the next instant, they all retreated, hiding in the fog, disappearing without a trace. Huh? What was going on? Why did these headless chefs run away without fighting? Bufong narrowed his eyes. In the next instant, the fog parted, revealing a deep passage. The corners of Bufong's mouth curled upwards. He was not afraid in his heart, and he brought Xiao Bai along with him, walking along the deep passage. The human and the puppet's figures quickly disappeared in the passage. As they walked, the fog gradually closed up. The entire big city was once again shrouded in a hazy fog. The further they walked, the thinner the fog became. Soon, Bufong and Xiao Bai stopped. This was because they realized that there was no path in front of them. There was only a towering building without a door. No door. Bufong was bewildered. He walked around the towering building, and indeed, he realized that the building was completely sealed. Xiao Bai's purple eyes twinkled. He walked in front of the building, raised his fan-like hand, and punched the building. With a loud explosion, the entire building shook for a while. However, in the end, the building did not collapse. Xiao Bai's punch was unable to smash the building. This building was very hard. "Xiao Bai, give me a few more punches." Bufong thought for a while, then patted Xiao Bai's chubby little belly. Xiao Bai nodded his head, continuously punching the building, causing the rumbling sounds to echo unceasingly. Xiaopi lay on Bufong's shoulder, rolling his eyes as he looked at Xiao Bai, who was punching the building in an orderly manner. All of a sudden, Xiaopi's figure dashed out, sticking to the wall. He started to climb up, and his entire body emitted a golden radiance. In the next instant, he fiercely hit the building. A protruding stone was instantly hit by the door, and it caved in deeply. In the next instant, the entire building let out a rumbling sound, and even the ground began to shake violently. Xiaobai retracted his fist, quietly standing by Bu Feng's side. Xiaopi, on the other hand, once again climbed back onto Bu Feng's shoulder. Bu Feng took a step back, realizing that the building had undergone a huge change. The bricks on the wall were constantly moving, letting out rumbling sounds. After a long while, it finally calmed down. In the next instant, a pillar of light shot up into the sky from the building, charging straight into the heavens. A buzzing sound rang out. This pillar of light shot above the ground, and that incandescent brilliance instantly flourished. In the next instant, it actually became multicolored. Rumble. The ground split open, revealing a deep hole. A deep aura instantly spread out. At the same time, the entire lifeless city seemed to have once again glowed with a terrifying might. Heaven's secret territory. A thick pillar of light shot up into the sky, charging straight into the heavens. The clouds above the dome began to swirl, revolving around that pillar of light, forming a huge vortex. A wave of tyrannical aura instantly spread out. In the sky, there seemed to be a tyrannical blade energy crisscrossing. At this moment, the entire Heaven's secret territory began to shake. In a dazzling golden palace, many alchemists who were sitting cross-legged on the ground with their eyes closed to comprehend and sense the inheritance all opened their eyes. Among them, an old man with white hair opened his turbid eyes, deeply looking at the direction that the pillar of light shot towards. A hint of astonishment appeared on his wrinkled face. The inheritance of the supreme blade tyrant has been opened by someone. The alchemists in the main hall all stood up, raising their heads to look at the direction that the pillar of light shot towards. Everyone's faces slowly revealed a look of excitement. Is this the inheritance of the supreme blade tyrant? The inheritance of the supreme blade tyrant. It has actually been opened. So many experts in the Heaven's secret territory have searched for so long and still couldn't find it. Is the grave of the ancient expert, the supreme blade tyrant, going to be dug up? The alchemist discussed animatedly, incomparably excited. Mubai looked suspiciously at the youth beside him. Senior, who is the supreme blade tyrant? That youth, who was also the one who previously received Bu Feng and the others, said with a face full of excitement. The supreme blade tyrant is an ancient expert. His inheritance is extremely precious. That is the inheritance of an expert at the peak of the divine soul realm. Who wouldn't want it? The inheritance of an expert at the peak of the divine soul realm. Mubai sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes instantly burning up. However, no one said anything. These alchemists all rushed out of the palace, quickly rushing towards the direction where the pillar of light shot out from. At this moment, it was not only the alchemists of the Pill Palace. Those experts who were wandering around the Heaven's secret territory all discovered this strange situation. Each and every one of them became excited. Everyone was extremely excited. The Shura Saintess smiled sweetly as she looked at the direction that the pillar of light shot towards. With a point of her finger, her figure sped towards that direction. Luo Li, who was following beside her, also let out a long whistle. His eyes revealed a look of excitement, and he was extremely emotional. In the Heaven's secret territory's dense forest, a middle-aged man wearing a cloth robe walked out. In one hand, he carried the corpse of a huge spirit beast, and in the other hand, he held a blue kitchen knife that seemed to be carved from sapphire. The inheritance of the supreme blade tyrant? The inheritance of that gluttonous expert? Interesting. I heard that the supreme blade tyrant has some relationship with my valley of gluttony. Since that's the case, it would be impolite to refuse this inheritance. Jiang Ling's figure sped forward. Suddenly, she also saw the pillar of light. Her figure stopped on top of the big tree, and she looked at the pillar of light in the sky with a solemn expression. This kind of power, it should be the inheritance of an expert that has been discovered. According to what teacher said, in the Heaven's Secret territory to have this kind of power, it should be the inheritance of the supreme blade tyrant. Unfortunately, teacher's task is more important. Otherwise, Jiangling, will definitely go and take a look at this inheritance. Letting out a sigh, Jiangling, with determination, continued to fly into the distance. If there was someone looking down from the sky at this moment, they would realize that around the pillar of light, there were all kinds of majestic, true energy gushing out, and the sound of air breaking resounded. Densely packed experts flew over from afar, gathering towards the position of the pillar of light. All of them were for the inheritance. And at this moment, Bufang, who had stepped into the so-called land of inheritance, felt all the pores on his body shrink. His figure rapidly descended, and soon he landed in an empty and gloomy room. In the room, there were all kinds of long knives stabbed into the ground, and a thick death energy pervaded the air. This room seemed to have turned into a graveyard of knives. It was incomparably sinister, and in the middle of these long knives, there was a fiery red kitchen knife. The kitchen knife's light was dim, and death energy revolved around it. And Bufang's heart moved. Maybe this kitchen knife was the main character of this knife graveyard. But a graveyard where a kitchen knife was buried? Bufang felt that it was a little strange. Could it be that the master of the graveyard in this big city was a chef? Chapter 575. This was a grave where a kitchen knife was buried. Bufang sucked in a deep breath. To bury a kitchen knife so solemnly. Could the owner of this grave be a chef? The more Bufang thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The kitchen knife was dazzling, but the death energy was like shackles that locked it up, sealing its brilliance. Bufang slowly walked around the room. The atmosphere in the room was very strange. The air was filled with dense saber energy. The saber energy was very sharp, and it would make people feel a stinging pain on their skin. There were all kinds of knives here. Many of the long knives were dull and lusterless. Other than the red kitchen knife, the other knives were dull and lusterless. Taking a step, Bufang turned his head to look at the knife closest to him. Squinting his eyes, Bufang reached out his hand and grabbed the handle of the knife. An ice-cold chill and deathly aura immediately drilled into his body through his arm, as if it wanted to freeze his body in an instant. However, the heaven and earth obsidian flame in Bufang's dantian throbbed, and a wave of fiery intent surged up, directly burning away the death energy that had drilled into his body. This knife is not bad. Bufang pulled out the knife, and his eyes sized it up. He stretched out a finger and flicked it, making a crisp sound. However, in the next moment, all the knives in the entire knife grave seemed to be shaking violently. Ding, 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 ding. The sound of metal colliding resounded unceasingly. The blade energy became sharper and sharper. All of a sudden, there was a loud explosion. One by one, the knives struggled free from the ground and soared into the sky. With a sharp energy, they slashed at Bufang at a rapid speed. The densely packed, long knives slashed over, covering the sky and the sun, making people's hair stand on end. Xiao Bai's purple eyes flickered. He took a step forward and stood in front of Bufang. The metal wings on its back spread out with a clanging sound. Numerous flying daggers suddenly flew out from its wings and collided with the long sabers in the air. Sparks flew in all directions as the metal collided. In a short while, the dim room brightened up, as if a gorgeous firework was blooming. The flying knife flew back to Xiao Bai's wings. Xiao Bai's purple eyes flashed, and his fan-like big hand slapped out. Bang, bang, bang. Those long blades that were chopping down were all pinched by Xiao Bai's fan-like large hands. Crack, crack, crack. It crumpled into a ball. Throwing a pile of scrap metal on the ground, Xiao Bai's eyes didn't relax in the slightest. It stared at the fiery red kitchen knife in the distance, its eyes solemn. There was a loud explosion. The entire area was blasted into a huge crater. One by one, the experts looked at each other. All of them carried a fiery intent as they dashed towards the deep crater. Very quickly, those experts landed on the ground and blasted the red rocks apart. They barged into the official road in a barbaric manner. Everyone could see the huge city in the distance. The big city grave. Was that the burial ground of the supreme blade tyrant? The land of inheritance? Whoosh, whoosh, everyone's breathing became heavy. They were incomparably excited as they dashed towards the big city. Once they entered the big city, the fog floated over, covering them. Although these experts were a little excited because of the inheritance, everyone was very clear that any inheritance ground was very dangerous. They didn't dare to let their guard down. Indeed, a whimpering sound came from within the fog. In the next instant, headless figures appeared from within the fog. A kitchen knife in one hand, a ladle in the other, countless headless chefs appeared, charging towards these experts to kill them. The battle broke out in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. The headless chefs were continuously smashed into pieces, turning into yellow sand on the ground. There were also some experts who were cut by the kitchen knives of the headless chefs. They cried out miserably, spitting out thick blood. These fresh blood splattered on the ground, and it was quickly absorbed by the ground. It was as if the entire big city had come to life, becoming a living creature. Every inheritance ground was accompanied by death, and these experts were long used to it. However, gradually, everyone realized that something was wrong, because they realized that the blood of those corpses that fell on the ground had completely dried up, turning into dried corpses. This kind of strange situation caused everyone's hair to stand on end. However, there was good news. These headless chefs were finally all killed. The fog slowly parted to the sides, revealing a long passage. The experts were incomparably excited. Following that passage, they sped all the way to the front of the huge building. A pitch-black hole appeared. All the experts looked at each other. Someone was the first to not be able to bear it and enter the hole. Buzz, 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 the red kitchen knife vibrated as though it wanted to break free from the shackles that were binding it. However, the shackles formed by the pitch-black death energy wrapped around the kitchen knife, making it unable to break free. Bu Fong came in front of the red kitchen knife, looking at the exquisite kitchen knife that was like a work of art. If he compared the dragon bone kitchen knife to this red kitchen knife, Bu Fong felt that his dragon bone kitchen knife was simply too crude. This red kitchen knife seemed to be made of rubies, sparkling and resplendent. The handle of a knife was engraved with dense patterns, and in the middle, there was a crystal with dense spirit energy, which caused the red kitchen knife to constantly emit powerful energy. However, this energy was restrained by the death energy shackles. How could such a kitchen knife be covered in dust? Bu Fong sighed. He felt that saving the kitchen knife from the abyss of suffering was what he should do as a chef. Opening his mouth, he spat out a ball of golden flame. The golden flame floated in his palm, constantly transforming into strange beasts. With a flick of his finger, the ball of golden flame shot out, landing on the death energy that was spreading everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. The flame instantly grew brighter, its brilliance dazzling, burning the death energy. Waves of wailing sounds came from the death energy shackles. Bu Fong stared at the burning green flame, his heart trembling. Suddenly, a strange movement came from outside the door. One by one, figures came in from the outside. These people were very careful, afraid of danger. Soon, these people found Bu Fong, who was standing in front of the red kitchen knife. They were all stunned, but in the next instant, they suddenly realized that this young man should be the person who activated the Supreme Blade Tyrant's inheritance. They did not think that the person who activated the Supreme Blade Tyrant's inheritance was actually such a young man. Soon, their gazes landed on the dazzling red kitchen knife beside Bu Fong. As the death energy was completely burned, the red kitchen knife also gradually shone brightly. It's the Slaughter God Blade? Oh my God, I saw the Supreme Blade Tyrant's Slaughter God Blade so quickly. That's a divine weapon, the Slaughter God Blade. It said that it killed a god before. It killed a divine beast before. The experts could no longer remain calm. Everyone's eyes widened, and every pore on their body seemed to open up in excitement. They stared greedily at the red kitchen knife, and all of them revealed looks of desire. Brat, quickly get away from the slaughter-god blade. This kind of treasure is not something that a trash who broke through one shackle like you can touch. Knowing that the red kitchen knife was actually the supreme blade tyrant's slaughter-god blade, the experts all roared angrily at Bufong, who was standing beside the red kitchen knife. Slaughter-god blade? Bufong was stunned. He looked at the kitchen knife that was burning brighter and brighter in the green flame, and he sighed in his heart. This kitchen knife's name was really domineering. It was even more domineering than his dragon bone kitchen knife. Bufong directly ignored the expert who was shouting at him and continued to stare at the red kitchen knife. The shackles of death energy on it were almost completely burned away, and it was about to disappear completely. The kitchen knife also started to shake violently, as though it wanted to break free from its shackles. It seemed as though it was about to fly into the sky. This was a kitchen knife with a spirit. Bufong was shocked that the kitchen knife had a spirit. The experts were instantly enraged. Most of them had broken through 2 or 3 shackles, so they were naturally not afraid of Bufong. When they realized that they were being ignored, they were all enraged. In the face of an opportunity, how could they remain calm? Boom, boom, boom. One by one, the experts shot out, and their auras burst forth. The shackles behind them swayed. In this big city, they were unable to fly. However, as experts of the divine physique echelon, their speed was already extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, these experts were about to reach Bufong. The closer they got to it, the more they felt that the slaughter god blade was extremely mysterious. That resplendent red light seemed to be able to stir their hearts. Stinking brat, get lost. An expert's eyes were filled with greed as he roared excitedly. All of a sudden, his vision was covered by a patch of pitch-black darkness. That expert, who was dashing forward, instantly froze. He felt as though his face was being covered by an ice-cold palm. Xiao Bai's purple eyes flashed, and his fan-like palm grabbed the heads of the 2 experts. Ruthlessly, he pressed them against the ground, causing them to rub against each other. Boom! Boom! Xiao Bai casually tossed them aside. The figures of the 2 experts were instantly sent flying back, landing on the ground. They coughed out blood incessantly. Xiao Bai, with his plump belly, stood in front of Bufong. His purple eyes flashed, and his aura was ferocious. The 2 experts crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. Their faces were somewhat malevolent. They had actually been tricked by a puppet. Damn it, this brat actually has a protective puppet. Could it be an expert from the puppet sect? The experts all had different thoughts. However, at this moment, facing the temptation of the slaughter god blade, these experts could not bear it anymore. They knew that the shackles on the slaughter god blade were about to be completely incinerated. Once it was completely incinerated, it would be time to snatch the blade. They had to make a move. Boom, boom. The experts who were the first to enter the cave took action. Their auras surged, causing dust to fill the air. Outside the cave, more and more people were coming in one after another. Xiao Bai's body trembled, and his aura surged. The pair of metal wings on his back spread open, and his purple eyes suddenly flickered, turning into a pale white color. Anyone who takes another step forward, die. Xiao Bai's mechanical voice rang out, and those experts only replied with one word, kill. Boom. His figure instantly dissipated, and Xiao Bai's figure shot out, punching out. An expert's chest was directly blasted open, and he was sent flying. The other experts were also affected by the shock waves, and they were sent flying. Many experts immediately revealed a look of terror. This puppet was actually in existence comparable to an expert who had broken through 5 Supreme Beings' shackles. Who exactly was that youth? Outside the cave, the ancient Shura city's saintess walked down. With a glance, she saw Bufong, who had stretched out his hand to grab the handle of the red kitchen knife. Her beautiful eyes instantly widened, and her face was filled with shock. Why was this chef here? Chapter 576. Did the Shura Saintess remember Buffon? Of course she remembered. No matter what, she would never forget the little chef who made her suffer a loss. However, she would never have thought that this little chef would actually appear in the Heaven's Secret territory. However, thinking about it, this little chef was the champion of the Magical Hand Conference and had the qualifications to enter the Heaven's Secret territory. However, to meet this guy in the Supreme Blade Tyrant's inheritance ground, the Shura Saintess was still very surprised. This was because she felt that this little chef's luck was really too good. The moment he entered the Heaven's Secret territory, he actually encountered the Supreme Blade Tyrant's tomb that countless experts have been searching for a long time. Buffon also saw the Shura Saintess. He was even more surprised that such an overly beautiful woman would appear here. Wasn't this the Heaven's Secret territory of the Pill Palace? Why would this woman from the ancient Shura city appear here? Were the people from the Pill Palace not going to do anything about it? Back then, this woman had caused a huge commotion in Heavenly Mist City and caused a Magical Hand Conference to become a mess. Once this kind of person appeared, the experts of the Pill Palace should be duty-bound to capture her. Luo Li's sharp eyes appeared beside the Saintess. He seemed to have felt the Saintess's surprise and looked over with a puzzled expression. "Saintess, what's wrong?" Luo Li had some doubts in his heart. However, the Saintess did not reply to him. She only pursed her lips and stared at Buffon, who was holding the red kitchen knife, with a deep gaze. Slaughter Godblade was the name of this kitchen knife. Buffon held the kitchen knife in his hand, and a terrifying murderous aura surged out of the knife. It surged into his mind, almost causing him to fall into a trance. This was a fierce knife. Although it looked like a kitchen knife, the baleful aura was extremely strong. The shackles of death energy were broken, and the spirituality of this kitchen knife also exploded. It seemed as though it was about to break free from Buffon's restraints and soar into the sky. Moreover, Buffon could feel that the kitchen knife seemed to be roaring soundlessly. That roaring sound was like that of a crazy spirit beast, incomparably fierce and fierce. "Put down the Slaughter Godblade. You damn brat." The eyes of the experts turned red. The Slaughter Godblade had appeared, but it was being held by an ant who had only broken through one of the Supreme Being's shackles. One had to know that the Slaughter Godblade was the saber of the Supreme Blade Tyrant. The Supreme Blade Tyrant was an expert in the Divine Soul Realm. He was in existence at the peak of the Divine Soul Realm who had opened up a 10-step soul ladder. The saber of such an existence being held by such an ant was simply an insult to the saber. Boom, boom, boom. True energy instantly engulfed the entire room, wreaking havoc and rumbling. A few experts roared as they charged towards Buffon. Their eyes were bloodshot. For the sake of the Slaughter Godblade, they were willing to risk it all. Xiao Bai's eyes also instantly deepened. His fist suddenly blasted out, and the air exploded with a bang, emitting a series of explosions. Bang! One by one, experts were sent flying by Xiao Bai's attack, vomiting blood. Any expert who wanted to take a step forward was sent flying by Xiao Bai's attack. Xiao Bai's fan-like hand opened up, grabbing an expert's head. He ruthlessly pressed the head onto the ground, rubbing it against the ground for a while before sending the head flying. Xiao Bai stood in front of Buffon, and his ash-gray eyes swept across the room. He had a powerful aura of a single man holding the pass against 10,000 enemies. The experts who had been blinded by the Slaughter God Blade finally regained their senses. They all retreated and looked at Xiao Bai with some fear. This wasn't an ordinary puppet. It was a puppet so powerful that it was a little too abnormal. They felt that only experts at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm would be able to fight against this puppet. There were actually quite a number of experts at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm present. The Shura Saintess's eyes were deep, and Luo Li also grinned as he looked at the puppet. At the entrance, Han Li and his guards also entered in a sorry state. With a glance, they saw Buffon and Whitey, and their eyes instantly flashed with brilliance. A middle-aged man wearing sackcloth smiled as he looked at Bufong and the kitchen knife in Bufong's hand. His eyes flashed with a bright light. These people were all experts at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm. They didn't make a move because they were not afraid of Xiao Bai. It was because they knew that the Slaughter God Blade wasn't the main inheritance of the venerable elder's tomb. The real treasures hadn't appeared yet. In reality, that was the case. Even Han Li resisted the urge to make a move. He looked at Bufong in the distance, and his eyes were filled with greed and desire. The Shura Tower, and now the Slaughter God Blade. This chef really had a lot of treasures on him. This time, he definitely couldn't let this little chef go. He had to get rid of Bufong in this heaven's secret territory. The Shura Tower and the Slaughter God Blade would both be his. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He was also waiting for the final inheritance. Compared to these treasures, the Supreme Blade Tyrant's inheritance was also extremely tempting to Han Li. After all, if he could obtain the inheritance, he might have the chance to take that step and condense the soul ladder to become a divine soul realm expert. The biggest difference between the divine soul realm and the divine physique echelon realm was that the divine physique echelon realm required one to break through the shackles of the supreme being realm. However, the divine soul realm required one to condense the soul ladder 10 steps and reach the peak of the divine soul realm. Any expert at the peak of the divine soul realm was an existence that stood at the peak of the hidden dragon continent. Bufong's state of mind was very strong, especially after he broke through to the divine physique echelon realm. His state of mind received a huge increase. With his senses, he could feel the spirituality within the Slaughter God Blade roaring. A buzzing sound suddenly erupted from within the Slaughter God Blade. Then, under Bufong's astonished gaze, rays of blade energy shot out from the Slaughter God Blade and landed on the wall far away from Bufong. The multicolored light on the wall seemed to converge into a flower bud. As the flower bud bloomed, a tunnel appeared on the wall. Within the tunnel, dense spiritual energy instantly filled the air, enveloping the tip of everyone's nose. Everyone's eyes lit up. They knew that the true inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant had just appeared. Bufong held onto the Slaughter God Blade and calmly glanced at the group of people behind him. Those people were staring at him like wolves and tigers, as though they wanted to tear him apart. However, Bufong was very calm, carrying the Slaughter God Blade. He turned around and walked into the tunnel. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed and turned ash gray. In the next instant, he followed behind Bufong and disappeared into the tunnel. Luo Li followed him. The moment Bufong's figure disappeared, the aura around the Shura Saintess changed. After coldly spitting out a sentence, her feet, which was wearing a pair of red shoes, tapped the ground and her figure shot forward. Luo Li grinned and his eyes widened as he quickly followed behind. The eyes of Han Li and the rest also narrowed, and they quickly followed behind. In this space, flying was forbidden. Thus, they could only run quickly. However, their speed was not slow. The aura of these experts at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm spread out, and the hearts of the other experts trembled. They consciously gave way and could only watch as they passed through the tunnel. A middle-aged man dressed in sackcloth had a faint smile on his face as he leisurely followed behind the experts and slowly stepped into the tunnel. The moment they entered the tunnel, the scene in front of them suddenly changed. From the originally narrow room, it suddenly appeared in an incomparably huge and spacious underground palace. The majestic underground palace was decorated with gold and jade. Huge stone pillars stood tall in the underground palace, supporting the dome of the underground palace. On the dome, there were colorful patterns that were extremely dazzling and beautiful. It made people feel as though they were in a dream. Bufong carried the Slaughter God Blade and stood at the entrance of the palace. In front of him, there was a majestic figure sitting on a chair made of precious minerals. That figure had his eyes closed, and his body emitted a terrifying pressure that made people feel intimidated. That pressure caused Bufong's heart to sink. He felt some pressure. Could this person be the owner of the Slaughter God Blade? The Supreme Blade Tyrant? Behind Bufong, one expert after another filed into the hall. The Shura Saintess narrowed her beautiful eyes and stared at Bufong. Her red lips curled up into a beautiful arc, and it seemed as though she was smiling, yet not smiling. In the next instant, everyone's attention was attracted by the figure in the hall, and their hearts trembled. The Supreme Blade Tyrant, an ancient expert at the peak of the divine soul realm. His body is still intact after so many years. What a terrifying pressure. Is this the pressure of an expert at the peak of the divine soul realm? As expected of an expert who can shake an entire region, the experts who entered the palace sucked in a breath of cold air and started to discuss among themselves. However, there were also people who looked around curiously because other than the Supreme Blade Tyrant's corpse, there was nothing else in the entire palace. The so-called inheritance was nowhere to be seen. Inheritance? Take a step forward and take a look. The Shura Saintess coldly laughed as she said to an expert beside her. That expert was stunned. In the next instant, he gritted his teeth and actually took a step forward. In just an instant, everyone saw that expert's eyes suddenly widen and his figure instantly disappeared. The entire place was in an uproar. Everyone felt as though they had seen a ghost, and they all retreated. Even Bufong felt his heart tremble. It was a little strange. A soul ladder condensed by the divine soul realm. Do you know what a soul ladder is? That's all mental energy. When mental energy condenses into a physical soul ladder, it's enough to show how terrifying mental energy is. Just the mental storm of an expert at the divine soul realm is enough to kill you and me. So what if we are experts at the peak of the divine physique realm? The Shura Saintess said. She was the saintess of the ancient Shura city. Since she was young, she had come into contact with true experts at the divine soul realm. An expert with a 5-step soul ladder would condense a soul sea that belonged to them. That soul sea was like a domain. Within the soul sea, an expert at the divine soul realm was invincible. This hall seemed to be safe, and there seemed to be nothing at all. However, if one took a step forward, it would be the soul sea of the Supreme Blade Tyrant. As an expert at the peak of the divine soul realm, the Supreme Blade Tyrant's soul sea was extremely terrifying. Without a doubt, the inheritance of the Supreme Blade Tyrant was definitely within that soul sea. After listening to the Shura Saintess words, everyone narrowed their eyes. Each of their hearts flashed with their own thoughts. In the ancient times, the Supreme Blade Tyrant's reputation was not good. He was a bloodthirsty expert. Even though he was a glutton, his killing intent was extremely terrifying. Even if one used their toes to think, they would know that the soul sea of this killing god was definitely extremely terrifying. It was extremely dangerous. However, if they wanted to obtain an opportunity, how could they be afraid of danger? Hence, some experts' eyes were filled with greed. They quickly rushed out, crazily charging into the soul sea. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Rays of brilliance flashed past. One by one, the experts disappeared from the main hall. Little chef, aren't you going in? The Shura Saintess smiled sweetly as she looked at Bufong. Her eyes flashed. I'm going in. Do you want to go together? Bufong glanced at the Shura Saintess and said. These frivolous words caused Luo Li, who was beside the Shura Saintess, to frown. A trace of killing intent instantly appeared in his eyes. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched. He glanced at Luo Li, and with the Slaughter God blade on his shoulder, he expressionlessly took a step forward. In the next instant, Bufong felt as though he had passed through a thin membrane. Everything in front of him changed drastically. When Bufong saw the situation in front of him clearly, a strange expression appeared on his face. This was the soul sea space of an expert at the peak of the divine soul realm. Chapter 577. The Supreme Blade Tyrant's Soul Sea Space. It sounded like a very powerful space, right? However, when Bufong saw the scene in front of him, His face instantly revealed a strange expression. This was a very spacious space, very big, very wide, just that. What made Bufong speechless wasn't this just a huge kitchen? The air was filled with the smell of smoke, and even if Bufong closed his eyes, he would still know where this place was. In the distance, there were many stoves lined up neatly and orderly. On some of the stoves, there were even sounds of pots being flipped and stir-frying. Flames shot up into the sky, and the smell of smoke filled the air. Many experts stared at this space with their mouths agape. Everyone's face was filled with a dull expression. This seemed to be a little different from what they had imagined, as the Supreme Blade Tyrant's Soul Sea space. Shouldn't it be an extremely terrifying place filled with killing intent? But what appeared in front of them was obviously a kitchen filled with the smell of gluttons. The Shura Saintess coughed awkwardly. She had previously vowed that the Soul Sea space was an extremely terrifying place, but who knew that after entering it, it would actually be such a scene? The group of people just stared at the scene in the kitchen with their mouths agape. Suddenly, in a dark corner of the kitchen, figures appeared one after another. Those figures quickly appeared in everyone's vision. They were actually headless chefs wearing chef robes. These headless chefs all held a kitchen knife in one hand and a ladle in the other, as though they were staring at everyone. Although they could not feel their gazes, everyone felt their hair stand on end. As expected, even if the Supreme Blade Tyrant Soul Sea space was a kitchen, it was not an ordinary kitchen. With the appearance of these headless chefs, everyone also felt a wave of danger. Da-da-da. The noise in the kitchen instantly disappeared, and it became extremely quiet. In the next moment, those headless chefs all moved to the side, leaving a path. A tall and sturdy figure stepped out from within. Everyone saw this figure, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The Supreme Blade Tyrant. Everyone recognized this man in front of them because this man was not unfamiliar to them. He was the Supreme Blade Tyrant who was previously sitting in the main hall. It was just that the Supreme Blade Tyrant in the underground palace was just a corpse, but the Supreme Blade Tyrant in front of them was a living person. A living person? Everyone felt their scalps go numb, and many people even revealed fear in their eyes. The Supreme Blade Tyrant leisurely walked forward, surrounded by many headless chefs. He was like a moon surrounded by stars. His face was a little pale, but his eyes calmly swept across the crowd. Suddenly, he focused his gaze on Bufong and raised his eyebrows. Has the seal I placed on the Slaughter God blade been unlocked? You guys should be here to look for the inheritance, right? The Shura Saintess and the others also felt a chill. The person in front of them was a divine soul realm expert. Even though everyone knew that he had already died, they still felt a sense of pressure when facing him. You guys came to the right place. This is my Soul Sea space. My inheritance is in this space. The Supreme Blade Tyrant said. Everyone was taken aback for a moment. Then a hint of joy appeared on their faces. However, the joy on their faces did not last for long. The Supreme Blade Tyrant continued to speak. However, whether or not you guys will have a life to obtain, it is hard to say. As soon as he finished speaking, many people let out cries of surprise. That was because they realized that the clothes on their bodies had actually changed. The clothes that were originally on their bodies had disappeared, and they had all become chef robes. Those chef robes were exactly the same as the chef robes on the headless chefs in the distance. The same as the clothes of the headless chefs? What did he mean? What was this Supreme Blade Tyrant trying to do? At this moment, even the Shura Saintess also felt a chill. This chill spread from her feet and instantly spread to the base of her neck. Bufong looked at everyone curiously and realized that their clothes had indeed been changed. Even Han Li, who was wearing the flashy silver armor, had changed into a chef robe. However, when Bufong looked at the vermilion robe on his body, his eyebrows twitched. Why did he not change? Could it be because the vermilion robe was a set of God of Cooking set? This was a little interesting. The corner of Bufong's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of a smile with a profound meaning. That Supreme Blade Tyrant's gaze also landed on Bufong's body. Although Bufong was originally wearing a chef robe, it was a little different from the chef robe that he had set up. However, the Supreme Blade Tyrant only took a glance before retracting his gaze. He swept his gaze across the entire crowd and continued to speak. This soul sea space is my land of inheritance. And if you want to obtain my inheritance, you have to pass the test that I have set up. Test? Everyone was stunned, and one by one, their hearts shrank as they became vigilant. You should have seen it as well. My soul sea space is a kitchen, and you should know that I am a foodie. You have to satisfy me in order to obtain my inheritance. If you can't satisfy me, then you will be like these chefs and stay here. The Supreme Blade Tyrant said. After saying that, the corner of his mouth suddenly curled up into an extremely terrifying arc, and that appearance became a little sinister. Everyone's hearts trembled. It was indeed like that. This test was indeed a test of life and death. Those who passed would live, and those who failed would die. Bufang's eyebrows twitched. So these headless chefs came about like that. However, looking at these chefs, Bufang's heart still felt a little uncomfortable. In his heart, being a chef should be a profession that brought people joy and freedom. But like the Supreme Blade Tyrant, who treated the chefs as his personal belongings, it always made him feel a little uncomfortable. Now, all of you can go and find your own stove. There are 53 of you here, and I have only prepared 50 stoves for you. I will count to 10, and if you can't find a stove, you will die. The Supreme Blade Tyrant laughed. In the next instant, all of the experts were shocked. They could not wait to move, rushing towards a stove. If they couldn't find a stove, they would die. Didn't that mean that 3 people had to die? Moreover, among these stoves, there were 2 stoves that were currently cooking. Obviously, there were already people there. That meant that among them, 5 people had to die. No one definitely wanted to die, so they would rather others die than to die themselves. The battle erupted in an instant. With Xiao Bai's protection, Bufang easily obtained stove. As for the Shura Saintis and the rest, with their cultivation, they also obtained a stove. However, in the end, there would still be people who could not obtain a stove. As the Supreme Blade Tyrant's count ended, those people became crazier and crazier. Pucci! Someone coughed out blood and flew out, landing in an empty space. He wanted to climb up, but he was bound by an invisible force. Time's up. The 5 of you did not obtain a spot, so you do not have the right to obtain my inheritance. So, stay behind and accompany me. The Supreme Blade Tyrant laughed. In the next instant, his eyes flashed, turning into a patch of blood red. The heads of the 5 experts were directly sent flying, exploding with a bang. Fresh blood poured onto their chef robes. Whoosh! Kitchen knives and ladles suddenly appeared in the air, falling onto the ground, letting out clanking sounds. The 5 experts who lost their heads stiffly bent down to pick up the kitchen knives and ladles. Slowly walking forward, they joined the army of headless chefs. Gulp! Everyone stared at this scene, feeling a wave of fear. Their hearts were filled with goosebumps. So this was how the army of headless chefs came about. Too scary. The Supreme Blade Tyrant had a smile on his face. Turning around to look at the people who had already found a stove, he narrowed his eyes. Now, since everyone has found a stove, everyone can start cooking. The ingredients have all been prepared for you in the cabinets under the stove. I hope that you can cook dishes that satisfy me. Remember, if you can't, as the Supreme Blade Tyrant said that, the smile on his face instantly disappeared. In the next instant, a sinister expression appeared. Then, all of you will stay behind and accompany me. Hiss, 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 stay behind and accompany him? Was it to become a headless chef? Who the hell wanted to become a headless chef? In the distance, the 5 experts who had become headless chefs held a kitchen knife in one hand and a ladle in the other. They stood stiffly on the spot, swaying left and right. The chef robes on their bodies were incomparably dirty, stained with their own blood. This scene caused everyone's heart to be filled with fear. The experts hurriedly regained their senses. Squatting down, they opened the cabinets under the stove and took out the ingredients inside. However, there were some people who stood in front of the stove with a face full of confusion, especially the group of alchemists from the Pill Palace. If you ask them to refine pills, they might be able to do it, but if you ask them to cook, that was simply asking them to ascend to the heavens. Why do they need to learn how to cook in order to find the inheritance? Not knowing how to cook and their lives were in danger, all of the alchemists had a constipated expression on their faces. The Shurasanus was also a little sluggish. However, she took a deep breath and her towering chest shook. Stretching out her white arms, she squatted down and opened the cabinets, taking out the ingredients within. Even if she did not know how to cook, she still had to do it. Otherwise, she would die. Moreover, she would die in such an ugly manner. She did not want that. Bufang furrowed his brows, looking at the crazily laughing supreme blade tyrant in the distance. A hint of disgust appeared in his heart. With regard to the appearance of the headless chef, Bufang felt a wave of discomfort in his heart. The supreme blade tyrant's actions were extremely disrespectful to chefs. He opened the cabinets and took out the ingredients from within. A dense spiritual energy instantly surged forth, causing Bufang's eyes to light up. This was because what was taken out from the wok was a huge piece of meat. The spiritual energy within the meat caused Bufang to feel a wave of shock. System, what meat is this? Bufang silently asked the system in his heart. Peak divine physique, echelon realm spirit beast, 5-flower armor pork, the system solemnly replied. With regards to the questions of ingredients, the system would always answer them seriously. Peak divine physique, echelon realm spirit beast meat. Bufang took in a deep breath. This supreme blade tyrant was indeed worthy of his reputation as a foodie. In the distance, the eyes of the middle-aged man wearing sackcloth also lit up, and he took in a deep breath. Peak divine physique, echelon realm spirit beast meat. A little interesting. Exactly how many spirit beasts did this supreme blade tyrant slaughter in the past? Legend has it that this lunatic had even slaughtered divine beasts before. Will there be divine beast meat appearing later? I'm really looking forward to it. The middle-aged man's eyes slightly widened, and the corner of his mouth twitched. With a thought, an ice-blue kitchen knife instantly appeared in his hands. The kitchen knife was emitting cold energy, and one could tell with a glance that it was not an ordinary item. What cooking? My Valley of Gluttony's people have never been afraid of anyone. This inheritance was specially prepared for my Valley of Gluttony's people, right? The middle-aged man held the ice-blue kitchen knife, and the corner of his mouth raised. Feeling the cold energy emitted from the kitchen knife, the middle-aged man narrowed his eyes in enjoyment. Suddenly, a throb came from his kitchen knife, causing the man to suddenly open his eyes. His pupils constricted, and he turned his head to look in a certain direction. There, a green smoke curled around the hands of a youth, and a pitch-black kitchen knife appeared, twirling with the knife. As for the man's eyes, they were tightly staring at that pitch-black kitchen knife. The energy that made his ice crystal kitchen knife throb was emitted from that black kitchen knife. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.